Good evening and welcome to the June 10th, 2013 meeting of the Goffstown Board of Selectmen. I apologize, we're getting a little bit of a late start tonight. We had an important matter we had to take up prior to the meeting, so apologies for that. However, we'll start out the agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the acceptance and correction of the minutes to amend the May 13th, 2013 minutes on page 4 to replace the word greenway with rail trail.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. See, we have a few public announcements to make tonight. First is relative to a public hearing on the Exit 6 and 7 project of the I-293 project. It's from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. It's a notice of combined public officials, public informational meeting. The intent of this meeting is to continue community discussions concerning the I-293 Exit 6 and 7 improvement study in Manchester. The hearing will be held at the Manchester Community College, room 126. That's located at 1066 Front Street in Manchester. It will be held Tuesday, June 11th, 2013 at 7 p.m. Public is invited and encouraged to attend. Also have a couple of traffic alert announcements. First is relative to Maple Avenue in Goffstown. Goffstown Department of Public Works announces drainage repair work and paving starting Wednesday, June 5th, which was this past Wednesday, 2013, along Maple Ave from Elm Street to Heather Hill. Work is expected to occur between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. for the next several weeks. DPW will maintain at least one lane of travel for through traffic whenever feasible, but delays are to be expected. Please note the work will start above Smith Road this week. That would be last week. DPW will coordinate with Maple Ave School to reduce congestion and delays as much as possible when work begins on the lower half of Maple Avenue. This notice and project updates are posted on the town's website, or you can contact Megan Terrio, Town Engineer, at 497-3617. That's extension 280 with any questions. The second traffic alert relates to road work on Pleasant Street in Goffstown. Goffstown Department of Public Works and Village Water Precinct announced the start of road construction along Pleasant Street on or about June 18th. Work will begin at the Bog Road, West Union, Westwood intersection and is expected to last between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. for 1 to 2 weeks. The road will be open to alternating two-way traffic. Delays should be expected. Again, this notice and project updates are posted on the town's website. And again, you can contact Megan Terrio, Town Engineer, at 497-3617, extension 280 with any questions. We thank you for your patience. I also have an email from Rick Wilhelmy, the Parks and Rec Director, to Carl Querim, the Director of the Department of Public Works Director. Carl, on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Commissioners, myself, and the community of Goffstown, we thank you and your department for an outstanding job bringing the track area at Barnard Park back to life. Our DPW crews have a superior amount of talent and professionalism, as I experienced while working with them at the Barnard track. And I wanted to impress to you my thoughts on their dedication to a difficult job. We can't thank you enough for the continued support you continually send to the Parks and Recreation revitalization projects. Please extend this thank you to the entire DPW crew. They are the best. And I would agree. I appreciate Rick sending his sentiments along to us. Are there other public announcements from other members of the board?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to comment on the Maple Ave project. I visited that project last week firsthand.
it was brought to my attention that they're working on the drainage system over there. There's probably going to be some extended work that will need to be done. We're not blaming anybody, but there's some work that was kind of done that was not done correctly or properly. Every time they get to a manhole, I think it's going to be an easy one. It turns out to be a bigger project than anticipated. And I met with Carl and Jeff and everybody else. What I'm asking is the people in the Maple Ave area, just please bear with us. They're working as fast as they can work. It's probably going to maybe be a little bit longer than anticipated, only because of the work that is involved. Once you open the ground, as you know, they're finding all kinds of things that were not anticipated, and they're trying to make it right.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And it is not uncommon to run into those types of surprises once you actually start doing the field work. You can't anticipate all of those situations, but appreciate that. Thank you. Any other public comments from the board? No? Or announcements, I should say. Okay, thank you. It's about 12 minutes past 6, so I'm going to ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and address the Board of Selectmen on any issues. If you could come forward and have a seat and state your name and address, and give you a 3, 4, 5 minutes.
I'm back again. I was here last week, and I'm back again this week. And my name is Katie Benner, and I live on 12 Joffrey Street. And this evening I'm here because as I previously voiced out, I'm very concerned about what's happening to my town. Not having a full explanation about what has already been proposed on the Planned Parenthood agenda, the possibility of my dead-end street being open, paying thousands of extra dollars in taxes to educate the hundreds of new students that will be coming along with the fast growth from huge apartment complexes, such as the one that was recently approved on Moose Club that was against our 4.4.2 zoning regulations, has caused me and many others much added stress and worries. It seems like Mr. Rose did it on purpose to book a meeting for 6/11 when he knew that on 6/11 there was the exit 6 and 7 meeting already taken place. Many hardworking taxpayers were notified about this meeting and now cannot be re-notified and will be very, very disappointed tomorrow when they come to St. A's to find out there's no meeting. This kind of knockdown attempts of people gathering for information about plans and upcoming projects seems to be the norm in Goffstown lately. We're either too early, too late, or it's been canceled. It appears that the town wants to pass things without people being able to express their opinions or vote on the matter. Again, an example of this is this 224 apartment building that's already being in process of being built right now on Moose Club against the zoning section 4.42. And that section states a complex should be no bigger than a 12-unit apartment building. And the plan passed it under a false pretense, okay, that is that says, okay, that it fits within a special permit or a conditional use permit. You know, how can a huge apartment like this, okay, fit with the nature of other residential properties in the neighborhood? It doesn't. How can you compare a big 24 apartment building with a residential house? It does not make sense. Okay, again, it doesn't go to scale, and it should have been never permitted on a special condition permit. Okay, and the Moose Club residents are very upset because they weren't notified. Okay, I guess the rule is you have to notify just the abutters. Okay, but one abutter had told me the other day that he was notified. He comes to a meeting, and just like my meeting tomorrow night, it's been canceled. And then he comes back, oh, everything's gone through. Okay, so you're too late. It's sad, you know, it's sad. And this complex does not tie in with the scale with the rail trail. That's a nature trail. And a complex like that can bring an extra 150 cars or vehicles. That's lots of traffic on Moose Club. And it creates a lot of wear and tear in the existing roads. With only one way in and one way out, big complexes can create fire and safety hazards. Now, these people can be stuck in the fire. They can burn, okay? And this is going to be on people's heads, you know? It's sad, very sad. Also, a complex like that is not a .22 per child unit or per unit child. It's more like 2 children per unit, which would mean 100 new students to Goffstown, okay? And that's going to create a hardship on my town, okay? That's over $1 million in taxes, okay, that we have to come up with to educate these children. And because of not notifying all residents on Goffstown's huge projects like this, okay, I've emailed Mr. LeMay, our selectman, to stop or halt, okay, on a cease and desist. I mean, maybe we're just waking up. We're too late, you know, because people sometimes don't get involved because, you know, the meeting's too early. It's at 6 o'clock, okay? You know, they have other things, but at least it should be an effort to notify people. And I say, please notify us on the town signs, okay? I mean, even the police department advertised dump stickers needed. Now, isn't town participation on these huge complexes a lot more important than a dump sticker? I think so, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars. We can't continue the growth with huge apartment complexes, as we cannot keep adding millions to our education expenses, as we already don't have the $2 million that we're going to need to make up the difference for Dumbarton students' loss. And okay, the $14.5 million for school repairs, all right? There's also a couple of other plans that have been approved, like a 76 attached single-family townhouse on Bog Road. And digging up this plan Penardville, we're finding out, you know, a lot of things that are being approved. Now, this was approved again on a special exception. And, you know, I'm not articulate. I'm not familiar with all the plans and you know, loopholes and everything. But the special exception, that means it's not in the ordinary, okay? And this has to do with wetlands and road impacts. That can't be good. The 76 apartment complex, if that brings in another 2 kids per unit, that's 150 new students, okay? And that's going to cost the taxpayers $1.5 million in education. The deleting of the 55 and over restrictions on the 16 townhouse dwellings, okay, that you folks permitted on Mast and Dennis Park, okay, that's going to create hardship also. At 55 and over, okay, that would have been great. It would have been extra money for the town, no kids to worry about. But if you're bringing in, again, 32 new students, 2 per townhouse, you're talking about a $338,000 cost for education. Again, all taxpayers from our town need to be notified on big signs, okay, in our town and via email, okay, on those, you have emails, okay. It matters, okay. You know, it's bad enough our government right now is going bankrupt. We turn on the news, okay, we're $17 trillion in debt. You know, let's not do like the government's doing and run our town down to the ground. It's not right, okay. And accepting money from HUD also has strings attached to it. Okay, in big complexes, that's what the strings are. Big complexes equals fast growth, and fast growth comes tax liabilities and strains on schools, police, fire, and resources. Okay, what happened to Manchester just a few years ago? They had a fast growth. And, you know, watching on the news, they're laying off, you know, teachers, they're laying off police officers. You know, they had no more money. We don't want that to happen to our town, you know. I love our police officers. They give us good service when we need help. The fire department also. And it's not easy, you know, to handle all the things that you have on your plates, too, because I see you folks. You know, last meeting, you have big packets, and sometimes it's confusing. You know, it's not easy. And by the way, I want to commend Mr. Devanza, Barbara Griffin, and Mr. Steve Dutton. I don't know all these people, but they voted against the Moose Club project, okay? And some of the people I'm not too happy for approving this is Mr. Hickel and Simone Duhamel. I just wanted to bring that on record. And another thing, too, okay, it seems like we're either too late, too early, or the meetings that possibly a lot of people can come to, you know, they get postponed, canceled, or whatever. And an example of this, too, was the meeting that was proposed for tomorrow night. And it was proposed to be at St. A's, I believe, in a big hall. All right. And now, okay, it's been canceled. All right. So my husband and I are going to have to notify these people, you know, to go to the rescheduled meeting. And Mr. Rose, okay, emailed a half a page of people, all these people and all these people on the email, which is good that he's trying to notify everybody. But the meeting is to be held in this room. Now, what if these people all come? All right, that's 200 people. Where are you going to sit all the people? All right, that's you're going to tell them, you know, I'm sorry, go back home and watch it on TV. That's not right, you know. And also, it's funny though, when I just started getting involved in the town, And when I started getting involved, I started looking at the meetings. On June 13th at 7 p.m., I guess Southern New Hampshire Housing Project Committee or something like that, SNHP, and this has to do with maybe the Plan Pernardville. It was scheduled for June 13th at 7 p.m., and now it's gone off the schedule. So I would like to know what happened to that meeting, and could you please let me know when it's going to be, where it's going to be, and what time, please? And also, last time I was here at a meeting, there was a proposal of land being donated, and maybe because I was here at the meeting, the conversation didn't go on, and it wasn't supposed to be reviewed until 2 more weeks on June 17th, but it's back on the agenda this evening. If, people can let me know a little bit about what that's going on too, I would appreciate that. And I'm speaking in behalf of also my husband, who could not be here tonight because he's working, Mr. Dana Benner, and a lot of people that would have liked to come tonight but cannot because it's an early meeting and they don't get out of work in time. Okay, so that will do it for me tonight. Thank you so much.
Before you leave, I appreciate your comments. You understand a lot of the things you brought up are planning board issues, and planning board members are elected by the citizens the same as the Board of Selectmen are. So, those people are elected to do their jobs, so the planning board is the right place to bring those comments or those concerns relative to the planning issues. And we understand 6 o'clock is early for a lot of people. We instituted 2 public hearing opportunities in our agenda. There's a second one available around 7:30 every Monday night. So just want you and other folks to know there are 2 opportunities to address the board and bring your comments forward, because we recognize 6 o'clock's awful early.
Okay, so 7:30
most people are
you're
probably
allowed to
having dinner
speak
with their
also?
families, as they should be. So there is a second opportunity on the agenda every Monday night for public comment. But were you reading from a prepared statement?
My husband helped me prepare that, yes.
Can you leave a copy of that with us?
Okay, I can, yes. Okay, as a matter of fact, you could have this copy right here.
That'd be great. And we thank you for taking the time out to come down and address us.
Okay, well, thank you very much for hearing me. I appreciate it. And any comments to what I've asked or brought up would be truly appreciated this
As
evening
far
if
as
you have time.
the parcels that are being donated to the town, that we're required to hold 2 public hearings. One was held last Monday, the second one will be held next Monday.
Yes.
So the next Monday will be the second public hearing.
But it's also on the agenda for
which
this
he's
evening.
referring
But
to
nothing was really discussed as far as I know. I mean, just the pictures, okay? Just the plans were on the table, and no explanation as to what perhaps may be done with these partials or what was going on. So nothing was, it was just the pictures, that's it. And now it's back on the table, and it wasn't scheduled last week to be on the table again tonight.
The public hearing is not scheduled for tonight. The public hearing is next week. This
Monday.
is just the village plan I put in for the selectmen
Right.
to see what the village planning committee a few years back came up with for ideas for those
So
parcels.
we know where these parcels are in relationship to that
Right.
plan.
And their ideas for the development of those
So
parcels.
tonight is not a public hearing to
Right.
discuss the donation of those parcels. That'll be next Monday night,
Okay,
okay?
all right. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, Carlos, could you also let them know the packet is available online as well?
Yes, that's right. And ma'am, did you know you can review this entire packet online on the town's website?
What is that on, sir?
This is on the town's website. Every packet that we review every Monday night is available for viewing on the town's website.
Oh,
You go
that's
in,
the
you go into
Selectmen's package.
departments, you go down to Selectmen's, then you go to minutes, and then you'll see packets, and you'll pick the date of the packet for the meeting you're interested in.
Okay, that's good to know.
So even at home, you can follow along,
Okay, good.
okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, anyone else from the public who wants to speak? I don't see anyone. All right, next is the Assistant Town Administrator, Derek Horn, regarding several items. Derek, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item in your packet tonight is the Economic Development Self-Assessment Tool. This is something that we saw a presentation at the annual meeting of Access Greater Manchester back in January. This is a questionnaire that is available through Northeastern University. It's a 250-plus questionnaire that communities can fill out, and the answers go against basically an answer key that has been developed by private site selectors and other municipalities that have taken this test, so you can determine a community's deal makers and deal breakers relative to economic development. The EDC talked about this at their April and May meeting, and then I was at the all boards meeting with you where a lot of the discussion centered on economic development in town and where do we go. I know Selectman Devanza at meetings has pointed out there have been a lot of efforts to do economic development in the town. In 2011, you had the Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive that was passed. You've had the Business Expo the last couple of years that's put on by the Lions Club that the EDC worked with. You've had the website done as a redesign. You've had regional economic development. You've done the Hillsborough charrette, the Hillsborough County charrette that got participated in. You've had 2 warrant articles in 2006 and 7 for a TIF district along Mast Road. A lot of effort, but is that necessarily the deal makers and the deal breakers that are stopping development in town? I don't know. And that's where measuring, doing this questionnaire and going against basically the answer key that's been developed by site selectors and private business, I think will give the town a direction and almost a map to develop an economic development strategy. So after that all boards meeting, I sent a request to the Goffstown Industrial Corporation requesting a grant in the amount of $2,500, which would pay for half of the Economic Development Self-Assessment Tool, or EDSAT. At the meeting on Wednesday of last week, the EDC voted to use $2,500 of their funds to pay for the other half. So I guess at this point, I'm just can answer any questions you may have and ask that you accept the donation so we can move forward with the EDSAT.
Donation or grant?
Grant, sorry.
Is there any discussion before we entertain a motion, or we want to go right to a motion? Why don't I take a motion first?
I'll make a motion that we accept the grant for the program from the Goffstown Industrial Corporation.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second. Okay, is there any discussion from any of the board members relative to the grant?
Seems like a worthy cause. I was at that meeting. It seems, they're going to go somewhere with it, so they need to spend half. They're going to spend half of their budget and get so quite a bit of money they're going to put out on the end of the road there.
Seems like a wise expenditure of
I
money.
think so.
Yeah. Anything else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mr. Chair? There's also, if anyone is interested in what this program there's in our packet, there's a good brochure, and that shows the assessment categories, exactly what the questionnaire would be looking at. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
The next item I had was we have the town hall, 2 of the items that we've put forward to CIP. One is the redesign and actual construction of the revenue collection office here at Town Hall. As you know, we've been working on this for the last about year and a half, and in April, the architect came before you to present the different phases of construction, and what I have for you is a construction budget in your package that shows in the left-hand column the estimate provided by Amoskeag Architectural, and then also the staff recommendations. In the Revenue Collection Office, the staff recommends, a reduction of about $6,150 for casework, because we believe we can use the desks that State Farm donated to us a couple months ago, and the architect confirmed that we would be able to use that based on his plans in the side. We've also made a recommendation to basically do the stairwells, the revenue collection office, the interview room, the administration offices, and then the upgrades to the building inspector to give him an actual office shared with the assessor, and the upper level bathrooms to make them compliant, ADA compliant. And again, I will be presenting this request to CIP on the 20th of June, so a week from Thursday. And when I originally submitted the CIP request, we had the full $125,000 construction budget, because from that April meeting, there was still no firm decision on how you'd want to move forward. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have, but also look for some guidance on how we should be presenting to CIP on this request.
So this subtotal, Derek, instead of 125,000 for phase one, would be 66,960?
It would be 66,960 for phase one, and then we would also have on the next page,
The 5,000?
the 5,000 for the downstairs lunchroom and supervisor of the checklist conversion. Our facility supervisor, Dave Roberge, built the GTV studio, and he also did a kitchen upgrade at the police department, and those would be the cost of materials for that.
So your request now at 125 would go down then to 71,960 if the board approves this tonight?
If the board approves it tonight.
Questions from the board relative to the estimates and the request to go to CIP? It seems to be in line with what you've been moving forward with.
Yeah, but I do have one question. And I'm not sure, did we finalize this plan when Alan Eaton was here?
No.
We had a discussion.
Had discussion, no decisions were made.
And I think it went back for another revision, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or was there something?
Not since he reported on April 29th.
April
Prior to
29th
that.
is the last time you've seen the plan. You have a copy of that plan in your packet, but that's the last time it's been presented.
Yeah, he presented it and is waiting to hear back from us.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
On
Yes.
which ones you wanted to do.
Well, yeah, but I thought it was the design also. I thought it was also the finalizing of the design.
Right, he wanted to know what you want, if you wanted to phase this in, what you wanted in phase one, what you wanted in phase two, and then he would finalize everything based on that.
So we've got
Well-
a recommendation, what's going into phase one now, what's going into phase two.
Correct.
But I didn't recall that we agreed on the final drawing, unless perhaps I missed that.
You didn't. You did not make that decision, but again, with the time crunch to present to CIP next week, based on Alan's recommendations at that meeting and then staff's recommendations, we've made our recommendations for your consideration.
Well, if I can, just as a follow-up, I guess the only thing I wanted to put forward, or I'm not trying to hold anything up, but the only thing I wanted to put forward, okay, was in the, currently what's on the existing upper level floor plan is the lounge 212, which becomes the interview room 212 on the new plan. Currently in there is a window between that room and the where Catherine is right now. That was put in there so that it was a security window, because if you're in that room, on an interview room, at least you're closed into a room, that people that are in the next room, at least it gives you a visual of what's going on in that room. And I guess, things happen or things change and you don't realize it, but I noticed after that meeting with Alan that there are blinds on that window. And I was on the board when we put that in, and it was never intended to have blinds. The purpose that we opened up the wall and put the glass window is so that you had that visual, so that when somebody was in there, that you could prevent unwanted things to happen in that room. And it just seems to me that putting up blinds on there that were closed defeats that purpose of putting the window in. And I guess that was just one thing I was hoping to have a discussion further before we went forward. So I'm not trying to hold up the plan, but I guess I had that because I also had some thoughts of possibly having some more of those windows between some of the rooms for that purpose. That's all.
Well, I think the important thing is it does show the window there. Now, whether we put blinds on it or not is...
The blinds are there now. My point is that when we originally put those in, it was never an intent to have blinds on it. The purpose is so that it would be open and you could view.
We can take those down.
Yeah.
I don't know who put them up. I know what you're saying. I was in that office. That's why you folks put that up at the time.
because we didn't want Sue alone in a room with all the doors closed,
With all the scary types, yeah.
you know? And we had discussions of adding more.
Yeah, okay,
And
well,
I
we
just-
can put them up, take them down, whatever. It works best, doesn't it?
Well, I know the next thing is the vertical lift. And when I brought, my intent was not to have that as a separate CIP article, but included in the renovations, built in, with that cost built into whatever phase
We can do that.
it was.
Yeah, we
it was
weren't
done.
clear on whether it was supposed to be built into this project or not.
And I need to follow up, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman? Because exactly what Nick is bringing up, my recollection on the discussion was that the lift, the stairs were an integral part of the building because of the type of construction, and in order to do something, we needed some further information and discussion to incorporate it into the plan, and I guess that's where I'm going with that. The plan wasn't, you know, it left me open-ended that we were gonna have further discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna need some structural analysis done as part of putting in the lift.
There are some figures in here. Did that come from
Yes,
someone?
Yes, our facility supervisor for the ADA lifts, we did get quotes on what it would cost for the general contractor to knock out the existing stairs on one side and basically build a frame that the enclosure would fit into, the cost of the unit, and then also automatic doors for the front of Town Hall to upgrade those, because we don't currently have those.
and the fire department also looked at the site and said we would still meet the requirements even if we close that off with for an ADA elevator.
Is there a way we can put a placeholder for now in CIP so that it'll give us time to kind of hammer out the?
And we do, we have what,
We have
125,000 in there
We have
plus-
that placeholder, which I'll go again on the 20th for 125,000 for the revenue collection office, and then when we submitted the paperwork at the beginning of May, we put in for 40,000 for the ADA lift. We
And
can
that-
maintain those as placeholders or ask that CIP merge those into one project if that's the board's, the consensus of the board. And treat it as a placeholder, and then have Alan come back, because Alan did volunteer at that April 29th meeting to come back and to go through it.
And he could include the ADA lift in the final plan for them
Yeah.
to adopt?
Yes.
So it would seem appropriate then to put the placeholder in.
Yeah.
With
Would we have to
CIP.
placeholder all as in one, Mr. Chair?
What's that?
Make it all one, the ADA lift and everything all.
Is that the consensus of the board? That's what I'm hearing.
And then we could always revise it down based on what phase we're going to
I
do.
don't see any real benefit to breaking them out.
Thank you.
So, did you have a more up-to-date price on the ADA lift? 'Cause I think the
56, I think.
person came in after the fact, after our submission.
We had it as an estimate as 52,000.
52, okay.
We'll see.
So we need a motion, correct? And a vote.
If it's the consensus to move forward a CIP, to combine them into one and present them for the, I guess, the 125 plus
Right.
the
That's what I
52,000.
just heard. Yeah.
Then that's how I present. I guess that's
Yeah.
enough direction.
Yeah,
And
that's
what I'll
the
have
consensus.
Alan do is indicate the ADA lift on the plan, and we can schedule perhaps a workshop where he'd be willing to come back and work through those numbers with you.
So you care to make a motion?
So we're gonna do consensus.
Just consensus is fine.
That's fine.
Okay, that's
Are you, do we want to do 125 plus 52, or do you want to do the Phase 1 number, which was 73
71.
plus, or, no? You want to do the whole thing?
vote on.
I was going to say, if we could do it all, and then just let the CIP know that we'll be discussing the final
Okay.
phasing, and that number will
Okay.
Come down.
most likely come
And be
down.
broken out over a couple of years.
Absolutely. I can let them know that.
Thank you.
And that's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You too.
Chief Sullivan, you be up. Good evening.
You brought your computer tonight, didn't you?
Got a bunch of numbers on it.
Pretty official tonight.
At least I look it. Okay, the first item is the special detail rates. We spoke about it last week. And again, just to briefly summarize what I had gone over last week, I'm asking to go from our current vendor rate of $40 an hour to $52.50 an hour. With increasing the vendor rate, I would also look to increase the officer's rate from $32 to $37 an hour. It's been 9 years since we've increased that rate. Currently, we have done some research. Amherst pays the officers, the highest paid officer at time and a half rate. So it's the officer gets the highest officer's time and a half rate. Hampton PD is officer's current time and a half rate, no less than $35 an hour. Keene PD, highest officer's time and a half rate. Milford set at $37 for everyone. Bedford, members' time and a half rate, no more than 45, no less than 37. Londonderry is $49 an hour. Manchester, I've got a whole spreadsheet on that, which has got club rates and et cetera. New Boston has a detail rate of $42.15 an hour. And these are paid for the officer, not the charge to the vendor. Ware PD is $45.38 an hour. Durham, officer's time and a half rate. And the individual's officer's time and a half rate at Dover PD. So with this increase, what I'm hoping to do is, number one, make us compliant with the increases coming up July 1st in the retirement system. So that bump in the vendor rate would move us up. Additionally, since there's been no increase in the officer's rate in 9 years, I'm also looking to, I guess, even that out along with the increase in the vendor rate.
Questions?
Just a quick question, just on, we don't have to do a public hearing increasing fees?
We didn't in
We looked in-
2004. Because this is tied to officers' rates, that obviously does not need a
Well, I understand that,
Public
yes,
hearing.
that does not, no.
vendor rate. We did a cruiser rate, that when it changed from $10 to $15 an hour, we did do a public hearing for the cruiser rate
And
that year.
was
So
for many different rates. as
many
well.
other rates in town too,
Correct.
that, yeah, we included them all at the same time.
Right, that was why I was asking, because I know when we did like fire department permit rates, and permit
Yeah.
fees, those all went to public hearing,
Yes.
Yeah, you got the fees for the planning board.
right? So this would be different?
It's one public hearing, and like I said, in 2004, we did not do it.
Correct.
Did the vendor rate go up at that point too?
Yes, it did.
It did.
Why would this be different? And not require a public hearing?
I'm not sure, like I said, we did a vehicle one, in 2009, we did the
2009,
vehicle
correct.
public hearing.
Mhm.
Because we're reviewing all rates in town and we include them all. The vendor rate may require a public hearing. The officer's rate doesn't.
The last time the vendor rate.
It
again,
didn't,
we
I know, in
increased it as
2004
well,
it
so-
didn't.
I'll make a motion to accept the chief's recommendation and schedule a public hearing if required.
Second that motion.
All righty. A motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion?
I'm good with that.
So we'll look into that and get back to us so we know what's going on with that. Okay, any further discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500. Next.
Next, I have 3 leases before you. Sent them out to the towns that we enter leases into, and they sent them back signed. I had them for review. So I apologize that it wasn't sent before the board prior. There is a 2% escalator clause in each of the contracts. The amount of work that we provide to them is very similar to years in the past. There's no large influx or increase in services that we provide. And again, these are offsetting revenues to payments for personnel that we already have. We have dispatchers that have to be there. These increases for the dispatch or communications fees from both New Boston and Fire offset those costs. The prosecutorial services from Francistown, we have minimal cases with them, and they've offered, they continue to go in with the 2% escalator to have Carrie Stekowicz continue their prosecution of their cases.
Those are signatures, Chief, those are the parties on the other.
Yeah, I saw that on one of them.
I just
What's that? Yeah.
making sure.
Yes,
If
questions?
there's no questions, I'll make a motion
Okay.
that we,
I have questions, so I'll wait till after.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's entertain a motion, and we'll have some discussion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the chief's recommendation and go forward with the leases.
You're talking about both dispatch and the prosecutorial?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll second that.
motion and a second. All right, yes, discussion.
Yeah, just a quick question, Chief. You have 2% escalators. Do we have, the last lease I found was 2009 through 2010. And that one was for $860.74 for Ware, which is the same cost as this one. And the one for New Boston, which expired 2010, was $331.
One that expired in 2010, we've had them since then. They were expired this year, so those may not be accurate, the ones that you have. Were they signed in 10, or?
Well, that's what I was saying. I was trying to find. That's what my question was, what the rates were for the last. Because, like I said, New Boston's was $331 a month back in 2010, but we're starting at
304.
$304, which is a reduction.
Sure that is the, is it the same?
It's the one that was voted on by the board back in 2009.
Yeah, but go in the beginning, is it for the same service?
Yes, New Boston Fire.
It's with fire, okay.
Clarify it for me. Nick, you all set with that? Or are you still waiting?
Well, I was just wondering if there was.
Also, you trying to find something?
Yeah, I'm seeing if we had it scanned in here.
The last one I have is for 304 a month. Is the last one that I had. And it's a modified contract. I don't have the signature on it. But that's the file I have.
You say it had a modified.
It says modified contract for New Boston, 2011.
And it came to the board to be approved?
I don't have a signature on it.
Yeah, because I searched all the.
I can go back.
All the minutes, and
I'll be glad to go back and pull the old ones.
You don't need it tonight, do you?
No, they're paying as we speak, so.
Good people.
That's the important point.
That's what we like.
And the only other question, back in 2009, so you had said something that the leases had to go to the Attorney General for approval?
Yes, once the original format did
original
go
one.
to
Gotcha.
The AG's
Correct,
office.
and the last ones I sent up to them, they said we don't need to repeat.
We don't need,
so.
Yeah.
just me.
Just a minor issue here, the New Boston lease that's signed, is that Daniel Teague, looks like he printed his name, is that his signature? Is that the way he signed his name, or is that a print? Just an observation.
One last comment.
What's that?
One last comment,
sure.
if I could. And I think I brought this up back in 2009. If you look at the term, this lease starts January 1st. We're in June. The contract, the lease itself says it will be negotiated in November. So,
I got the last one in last week. I mean, I can bring them in piecemeal. I figured that all three of them would be submitted together. We started these in November. We went dialogue between us and Francistown in particular as far as the wording on the thing. We had tried to get a 3-year contract with them. They wouldn't get a 3-year contract. They want a 1-year contract. And that's where we've been battling back and forth. And this Francistown is a result of daily, weekly phone calls. So it's.
So they're paying at this current rate
It's a
right
process,
now?
yes.
And this term is how many years? 2?
The prosecutorial one?
Yes. 1. And the others are 2? 3? 3, yes. 13, 14, 15.
Okay, so this is going to come back before us.
Should we withdraw?
Yes, we should.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, okay, motion's been withdrawn. We'll revisit this next week. Thank you.
If you want to take a break, I may have them up in the finance office to.
I'll go back and pull all the.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief O'Brien.
Did you see him?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Last year, on August 27th, I sat here and along with the Fire Station Improvement Committee, presented the report on the current state of the fire stations, along with the recommendations on what we need to do in regards to creating building additions or improving space needs and conditions on all 3 fire stations. And with that, we also budgeted through CIP to begin that process. And because of other budgetary priorities, it was deferred for a year. To start the process, what I'm proposing tonight is the fact that we probably, I know we're going to need additional information for the voters to make an informed decision in regards to what their fire stations are going to look like with the funds that are being proposed. With that, I am requesting the release of public safety impact fees for the design or the architecture, engineering, and estimating services for the expansion of the current stations to meet the intent of the Fire Station Improvement Committee. Impact fees for this purpose. Currently, there is, last time I checked with Brian Rose, there was $67,453 of public safety impact fees currently impounded. And in fact, the CIP budgeted for and intended to they approved the release of $56,464 towards this project. And that was back in 2012. So in fact, if you look at the CIP matrix, you would see that in that matrix. There was a question on whether there was any impact fees that need to be released in the short term, so they're not returned to the developers that presented them some time ago. And working with Brian Rose on that, and the number he gave me that by the end of 2014, there has to be $2,900 expended from the Public Safety Impact Fee Fund, so it doesn't go back to the party that submitted it.
Would you repeat that figure again? What was that figure?
It's $2,900.
$2,900.
Any questions?
Questions from the board? Chief O'Brien?
Just a quick question, Chief, and this is probably for the board as well. The design phase that how in-depth is that going to be?
I've been working with a couple of companies. Obviously, most construction companies employ architects that work for similar projects like this. And what it include, the scope of service would include schematic designs. And with that, you'll be able to see what exactly you're going to get and, for this project. And then they're going to work on the engineering. It's not necessarily you're getting construction documents that when you immediately go to bid, and then you're going to get construction documents to hand over to the builder. Obviously, the design is going to be done by the architect, and any winning bid or winning construction vendor would have to work with that architect to get those plans. Obviously, they're proprietary. But more importantly, they're going to get their estimators on the project, and once they get the schematic design, we work that out, and then we're going to sit down and figure out how much is this project really going to cost. We've been estimating all this time, just kind of like going on market value of construction projects of similar size. Now we'll be able to really hone in on exactly how much this project's going to cost. And that way, when we go to the voters, hopefully next March, we'll have a firm dollar figure that we can present. And they're actually going to see something on a board that they can say, okay, this is how much money is going to go towards this project, and this is what we intend it to look like.
These plans that you're proposing to do, there'll be plans that can be used to put out for bids?
There'll be schematic designs. Obviously, there won't be build documents, but you'll have a very close fix. You'll have an idea exactly what's intended in the project, and from there, the winning vendor can work with the architect that had developed the plans, and possibly employ them to complete the construction documents.
So that would be more like design build?
Correct.
After we go out for a request for proposals.
Your question?
With the schematic, so that they're
Yes,
bidding
at
on
that point, we can sit there and vet builders ahead of time to determine which builders we want going to bid on this one.
You want to pre-qualify the builders?
Pre-qualify, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is a tool to do that also.
My concern is what I had mentioned earlier about, as my seat goes down, kind of looking at these projects not in a vacuum, but individually and not. My fear is that as we move forward, for instance, in your packet, we have the village plan. If we now we've all read the fire report, and we know what the stations need. They definitely need improvements. They need more space. But I think we need to look at, for instance, at 18, does that addition go to the side? And if it does, then the village plan is basically eliminated because that road that's there on the side is no longer feasible because you're moving, or would that addition go to the back? In the future, I know the police department needs expansion. Does it make sense to do these things separately, or should we look at combining, not a central station, but maybe the Pinardville station moving to the next to the police department and saving costs by having one heating plant, having combined rooms that can be used? So I'm just going back to what we talked about when we're looking at the long-range building needs. We shouldn't be doing them in a vacuum individually. And I do know there's a need to get these designs done, but I hate to see us move forward and then at some point say, we should look at doing this, or it's conflicting with this, but we've already spent money on all the designs. Just want to make sure that everyone has dead set on, yes, this is where the addition's going to go on Station 18, and this is definitely what we're going to put money into at Station 19.
Yes. I recall, Station 18, the addition was off to the side, right?
It was
To the right
presented
side.
as off to the side. If you're looking straight at it from Church Street, it'd be off to your right.
Yeah. Questions or comments from other board members?
Well, I'm still putting my thoughts together on this. I mean, I understand the comment, I understand the concern. The only thing is, well, we have 3 fire stations that you're looking at, Chief, right? Plans? In a comment that was made, we're talking about 2 of those stations that possibly might change from those comments. You're talking about 18 and you're talking about 17.
Correct.
19,
No,
rather.
right.
19.
17 would not change. 17's
Right,
plans would have to stay.
18 and 19 possibly change, but I guess the reason why I asked my question about what you are, because when you're talking about the design is not actually the plan that gives you the cost that you could put the plans out to bid, because you still have to work with the architect with a design build on that. So I think that the chief's suggestion is really a halfway step
Mhm.
to the design. But I think the concern that I have is with the not going forward with it. I don't like to not go for, never make a decision because of what could happen, because the relocation of 19 to, combine it with the police department on it, I mean, in concept, that's a good concept when you look at that, because of the location, but there's some logistics issues. Number one, the community gardens become a very, very political hot potato.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is one thing that is not going to be resolved within 1 or 2 years of trying to work on that alone. And my concern would be that if you do that right there alone, you're putting this project out another 3 years as far as the design. Now, if we have the design on 3 stations and 1 station gets perhaps changed, we still have to deal with 17 has to be dealt with. So then do we just go forward with 17 and hold off on the others? So
Yes, sure.
I think I think you're right, but I think it would involve more than 1 station, because if we were going to do something like build a new station where the community gardens, that would probably be the best spot to have our administrative offices. One-stop shopping. If contractors go or somebody's going in for permits, they go to one place. Station 18 would still remain, but it probably wouldn't need as large a renovation, because you wouldn't be having your daytime staffs, all of that. It's basically like 19 is now. So that plan would change dramatically.
I understand what you're saying. My whole point being, though, I don't see, if we started today on a relocation of 19, I don't see that even at least 5 to 7 years down the road. And I guess I would hate to hold off on the plans, because, as you're right, things change. Because who knows what land becomes available. Things change. But I would at least like to make a little bit of progress, because at least I don't see 17 changing.
And I don't mind going forward, as long as if we do move down the road and say, you know what, this isn't the best idea, we don't say to each other, well, we've already spent the money, so we're going down this road, and
I don't think taking the next step necessarily weds us.
precludes.
to any
That's
of
fine.
That's why I
as long
said
as-
it's a
as long
halfway
as-
plan, because it's not bid documents
Right.
Mhm.
that we're developing.
It's fine.
And for the folks that weren't on the board, I mean, in 2009, we looked at the community gardens, and we actually, that was one of the plans we did look at. We had a site review for a fire station, and we had a conceptual idea of what a fire station on that site would look like. But at that time, the cost of that station in 2009 was $7 million. So that was one of the components that the Fire Station Improvement Committee looked at. And they said, well, for maybe just over half of that amount, we can improve the 3 stations that we currently have. Again, conditions change over time, and we just, that was one of the things that the committee talked on and pointed out in a couple of meetings, is with the 293 exit 7 interchange effects on town, that affects Station 17. You're right. You have growth in the village area that affects the demands for having a presence here in the village. And again, with Palooza, you have effects in Pinardville also. So, but in the meantime, we have stations that we're bursting at the seams. We've got mechanical design issues that aren't appropriate for modern fire apparatus in day-to-day operations. So this will get you something to look at and to make an informed decision on where we need to go from here.
That 2009 plan, that was though for a centralized fire
Central
station.
A centralized
Correct.
station, right.
Okay.
But it was still with the fact that you were still going to need another station somewhere in town, most likely in the village. But it was probably consolidating 1, if not two stations.
We also need to consider all the time and effort that the improvement committee put into looking at these and recognize that.
Right.
Did they look at staffing too? Because we've discussed that before, that if you had a centralized station and you only staff one station and the call people use the other stations.
They did. It was a good discussion. In fact, that no matter what, a centralized station can only get you so far within the 5 or 6 minute response frame you'd like. So no matter what, because you have 37 square miles in Goffstown, you're going to need at least another location.
And there's a river
And a
down
river
there.
with only 2 bridges.
And you got a river that cuts us in half. We're not really a community that's only, say, 16 square miles and without a river that we can attack from one location. We're a bigger village, so we'll need at least two spots to run from.
Any other questions or comments from board members? So we're looking at releasing the impact fees for the purposes of taking the next step towards developing these schematic drawings that we can use as we move forward to solicit RFPs and whatnot. Take a motion on that?
I'll make a motion that impact fees be released for the study and the design expansion of fire stations.
Thank you.
And how much of that? Chief, what was your
Not to
request?
exceed
18,500.
18,500.
18.5, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Super, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your weekly meeting schedule is in your packets. Tuesday, tomorrow evening, is the I-293, exit 6 and 7 at 7 p.m., and that's at the Manchester Community College, room 126. Wednesday at 9 a.m. is Highway Safety Committee at the Police Department. Thursday at 7 p.m. you have the Planning Board in room 106. Your consensus folder tonight includes manifest, the general fund, and we're still listing these because that legislation that passed doesn't take effect for 60 days until Chapter 1, so it probably won't be until July, so we'll still be doing the manifest weekly until July. The AP warrant for the general fund is $286,262.25, and payroll and withholding is $139,106.20. The cable revolving fund payroll withholding is $979. You have an employee status report tonight for a lifeguard sub, and this is a rehire. You have a right to inter for Patricia Zarczyk. Her heirs and assigns. Shirley Hill Cemetery, Section 3, Lot 13-3. You have the revised CMAC charter with 2 additional community representatives that you voted on last week to do. And you have bridge age estimates and acceptance of Holly Street Extension as a town road.
Move to accept.
A motion to accept the consensus folder. Do we have a second?
Can we take the Holly Street extension out for discussion?
I'll go with that.
I'm okay with that, yeah, sure. Okay, so we're talking the consensus folder less the Holly Street extension item.
So we have a motion by Mark and second by,
And then
I'll second it.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500. Okay, let's take up the Holly Street
Yeah, I
extension.
just had a couple of questions on that. I just wanted to make sure and reaffirm that there's nothing in there's no obstructions in the
Right away.
could you make a motion to that effect? That
Yeah,
there
I
are
don't have a problem with
encumbrances
that. That's
in
the reason why I
right-of-way?
wanted to take it out, because I just want to make sure that we don't accept something and there's something in there that should not be in there, and we have a problem when the road is plowed or something.
So pending town engineer, or town,
Yeah, make sure to
Engineers.
verify that
Verification.
there's no obstruction,
The right-of-way is
there's no, right, the right-of-way is clear, what we're accepting, okay?
Yep, that's supposed to be part of the standard procedure, but
I-
it's good to make sure.
I just, sometimes things fall through the cracks.
okay, so we have a motion to that effect. We have a second.
I'll make the motion.
I thought that was a
Yeah,
motion.
I second it.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the Holly Street extension? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500.
Thank you.
So,
And the assessor recommends a report of timber cut on map 18, lot 62-1.
motion?
Yep.
Second?
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500.
And the assessor will be sending out a card to all property owners, and I think I put a
Got it
copy in
already.
each of your basket. Okay, okay. He's mailing them tomorrow. Compass Shopper update. Last year, the board entered into an agreement for a Compass Shopper with LGC, so that people who were having routine types of tests or procedures could call them to see if there were better rates anywhere. And you've got your first quarterly report. It started on January 1st. And as you can see, 30% of our members shopped for medical services, and 8.3% of those members selected a cost-effective option. So they have given us enclosures to put in payroll checks to kind of remind people, our employees, that this option is available to them, and there's an incentive for them if they shop for these medical procedures, which should save the town money, basically.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Last year, when you entered into this, you were saying that a 20% participation rate would be considered a success. When you say 20% participation, is that the actual redirection rate?
Right, I think so, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You also
Any
have...
questions? No? Okay, thank you, Sue.
Okay, and you also have an out-of-state request. The board had approved attendance at the APWA conference in Chicago for the DPW director, but he's unable to attend due to a family wedding, and he would like to send one of his supervisors in his stead with the board's approval.
I spoke with Carl on that the other day, and he's comfortable with sending someone in his staff. He hasn't quite picked out who yet. He's looking for permission to do that first, and then once he gets that done, he'll come up with a name or ask someone.
Yeah, I remember when we questioned him on this, it is budgeted.
Yes, it is budgeted. Yeah. It's the first time in 20 years he's gonna miss this. But I guess family comes first on this one.
Wedding is once in a lifetime.
Yeah, we hope.
Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully.
Usually.
I mean, if there's no, I'll make the motion that Carl speak to his staff and select a member that's appropriate for the meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 500.
That's it. That concludes my
Okay,
report.
thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Now we're down to the selectmen's discussion. First item in new business is to review the village plan as it relates to parcels being donated. It's at tab 8A. 1. What should we be taking note of here, Sue?
Well, I just wanted you to know what the Village Planning Committee saw for a future development of these parcels. And this was adopted by the Planning Board as an amendment to the Goffstown Master Plan. As you can see, we had discussed parking. Well, there is some additional parking in there, and there's a little park. And the rest of it is developed with some structures on it. But that's what they envisioned.
Right, and I
So we've got the bank and the post office building, and then the yarn shop, and then there's a new building.
Next to the yarn
Proposed.
shop, it looks like there was a
The yarn
building.
shop. A new building down below that, below the bank, a new building on the corner. And then some parking next to that, the park.
Yeah, and at that time, it may have been, remember when we were looking for a home for the courthouse?
Yes.
And
Right.
that was one of the parcels that was described as, would have been very appropriate for a standalone courthouse, but
Right.
they've moved on to.
And then westerly, we've got another, some sort of a commercial industrial building there with parking, associated parking. And what's the small
I'm not
building?
sure what that was.
Is that
Small and
If I remember correctly, they
Putnam
didn't
Fuel?
identify what the buildings were. This was more to show the interconnectivity of
Right.
the parking
and the roadway.
and the roadway, to make it so that you could go from building to building without actually getting back onto the main roads.
Yeah.
But there was discussion about the courthouse, I remember.
Yeah, that went on for several years.
But that was their vision at that time, and like I said, if you accept those parcels, you can control their future development, obviously, whether it's
This
municipal
gives us a
parking,
flavor
park,
for what
whatever, right.
possibly could go on those parcels?
Chair.
Yes.
I know that it's thinking down the road again, but if we were to get these partials, maybe, the chief's been looking for land for a new fire station. If we
Right.
could swap land for the town, swap partials, once the firehouse land is vacated or the firehouse is vacated, we could work a deal out with that possibly to, do a land swap.
And just say that goes to the comment I made earlier.
Right.
We haven't really figured out what we're doing with all of this, but yet we're designing buildings. And I understand your point. We want to take a step. I understand.
That's the point. If we'll never.
I understand.
And if it doesn't come out on the table, we'll never know. So, I understand Nick's concern. It's changing dynamics. It'll change day by day, and here's an opportunity to take advantage of a gift to the town. Land these days around here is pretty expensive, and for us to buy the partial of land, I know next door where the firehouse is now, I believe that land was up for sale once, and we made an offer, and the offer was denied. And we can now get a part of land, a portion of land for nothing, and maybe hopefully, who knows, build a new central fire station.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yep.
It's a lot of other factors have to come into play.
Most certainly.
The costs, obviously, are a whole lot more expensive to build a
We
new
can
station
save,
than it
we
would be.
can save right off the bat. We could save $200,000 to $300,000, maybe $500,000 on land, turn the land around, take this land, develop it, take the land across the street, sell it, and, I think personally it's a win-win situation, whether it works for the fire department or whoever.
Well, it's interesting. It gives you some sense for what could possibly go on the parcels.
Who knows, instead of remodeling town hall, let's make a public safety complex, we put town hall and fire station together.
All right, anything else? Any other comments? board members want to make relative to that? Brian? Appreciate you bringing it forward, though. Okay, old business. Rosemont paving is the first issue. Let's see.
I went out and visited Rosemont Ave. I went to see the site last week. Highway, DPW had been out. A lot of the things that Mr. Lundeville had brought forward to this board last week when he spoke to us had been corrected. The day I happened to be there, it was raining pretty good, and I actually got to see the water. You know, instead of going Mr. Lundeville's land, it's now going down the street into the manhole cover where it should have gone at first. He's very pleased with the work that was done. He said, thank you very much. I guess timing is everything, and this just happened to be the timing. I got a letter from Mike Hillhouse, said that they'd be in the area for fill and grind, and they basically, they went over, they assessed the situation, and there's probably a stretch of pavement 50 feet long that was redone, and I think, in essence, for a fix, it'll be a good fix. The water's not going on Mr. Lundeville's land anymore. It's now on the edge of the street. There's a small swale that was designed, and that swale goes right down to the storm drain.
So he's happy.
He said, thank you very much.
Good. That's good to hear. Lamson Ave snow plowing agreement. Do you have, I'm sorry, do you want on Rosemont?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
On this one, I had been doing some thinking and considering on this issue, and I had something that I wanted to bring up to the board that I think possibly we might be able, hopefully it might work out as a win-win situation. I'm hoping. The biggest issue that I have with it is the public benefit being what's always been is the right of the public to be able to go from Barnard Park across down onto Wordley. That's been the issue. The difficulty that we have is that we have a road that's it's a private road, and it dead ends. Beyond the dead end is Barnard Park, and we've been looking at where people have crossed was over on the Beauvair's property that have nothing to do with Lamson Ave. So looking at the plans and doing some thinking on that, I wanted to bring up the possibility of, and we've had discussions, Conservation Commission, and also having Eagle Scout project of creating a walk through that area. And when you go through that, and it's always, when you review the minutes back years ago when this has come before the board, it's always been a treacherous walk through there. And we've had that discussion when we talked about making this an Eagle project. And looking at that, I'm hoping that we might be able to put the extension, in other words, the back part of Lamson Ave straight up through to the park, rather than going on the Beauvair's property.
At the turnaround, you mean?
At the end. If we could come up with a way of making a walkway. Now, I've been on a nature walk, you might say, up at Bar Harbor in the state park, where they have these walks that are right through the wetlands, walkways that have been built. And you can literally access them. You could even drive a bicycle, a bike on there. But it seemed to me that if there was a way that type of a project could be built from the end, and you could put bollards on there or something, to prevent the types of vehicles that you don't want on there. And I'm just hoping that we might be able to come up with a way with Public Works that we could have that walkway at the end of Lamson Ave to Barnard Park, and then it would be a straight, pretty much, I think, an easier solution.
Who owns that property?
I was going to say, does the Lamson Ave terminate at the property?
Yeah, the people were here last week, though, at the meeting, and they weren't opposed to crossing it at all. I don't remember the name. They were actually at the meeting.
It's town, it's Corvo's?
No,
Corvo's on the end on
Fargo's
the
at
left.
the end,
On
yeah.
the left.
Right, but their land may go around,
Around
I don't know
the
if,
end of the-
if Lamson Ave directly abuts.
That's what I'm talking about, does it, and stop at,
Well, I'm just
Barnard.
thinking of an alternative way of getting to Barnard through here that might be a win-win situation all the way around.
The people last week weren't opposed to us going over there, using that walkway. They just had posted it, and that was the issue. They posted it when they were working on the road, so
Well-
they'd cover themselves for liability. And after that, they took it down. There wasn't an issue there.
But the issue that we have is do we need an agreement with the Boviers to maintain it? By doing this, the Boviers, which have no interest, and when I say interest, I mean they don't own part of Lamson Ave.
so would you suggest moving the footpath over? or-
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
If we,
Okay,
if
so
we rerouted, if there's a way that we could reroute that footpath and build some type of a path that was not so treacherous along that line, it would, hopefully we'd be able to meet all the
it wasn't
criteria.
Boyer who was the problem.
No, it wasn't
the other
Boyer.
property owner, the one out on the front.
It was on
No, I'm not saying Bovier is the problem.
No,
What
no.
I'm saying is that the difficulty now is that Bovier's direct interest is not Lamson Ave because they don't own Lamson Ave, but Bovier is in the picture because the crossing is on Bovier's property.
Yeah,
And he's thinking the safer crossing would go right directly at
Correct.
the end of Lamson into Barnard. It shows that actual building of Lamson ends before the boundary, but it shows a right-of-way all the way to Barnard. But I don't
It's
know
still
what's
private
there.
road.
Is it
Lamson is a private
road?
road,
So that
so-
piece would be owned by the Corvos, I
Correct.
think, is who you would
So you
be
would still
dealing
need to
with,
do the same thing,
with the
is get,
Corvos.
But we'd only,
Agreement.
we don't have to have a separate agreement with Bovier
Right here.
for the crossing.
Yeah, right now they cross
Right.
over here.
But we still have the issue of the one
Just
property owner
straddle
who doesn't
that
want to sign on to the
fence.
agreement.
Too.
We might be able to get
Between
around
open
that.
and
I don't mean to get around it, but by doing it this way, we may not need to do it that way. Because you can get from point A to point B. I just thought of it might be something worthwhile to look into.
Chair. And just to add to what Phil was saying, I met with Mr. Mulligan last week about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He specifically asked me to come for that time. He wanted me to see firsthand the number of students that use that pathway and the number of cars that are actually parked at Barnard Park. I was there with Mr. Mulligan probably an hour, in between 2 and 3 o'clock. It may not sound like a lot of kids, but I had counted 18 to 20 plus kids, and I can honestly say these numbers because I was there and I physically saw them. And they walked through from basically 2 to 3 o'clock, and I took a ride around to see what was left for cars in the parking lot, and it was quite a few cars at the start, and there was still quite a few cars at the end. So, I mean, I like Bill's idea. I mean, it's you know, and I'll agree with Alan. That sign was put there to protect the people while the construction was going on, and I think that's what started this whole. It just blew up, and I guess, I mean, Mr. Bovier, he's lived there for a number of years, and he last week said he didn't have an issue
Okay.
with the kids going. My concern is we all have agreements for every one of these houses. My agreement to Mr. Bovier would be that, you know, you allow continued passing of the students until, you know, whenever time, and, I mean, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody if we were to go back the way it was, and just, you know,
Continue the snow plowing.
continue the
and-
snow plowing, continue
continue
the
the path.
trash, continue everything. I mean, I went up the street, I looked at the street, I talked to Carl. That street, the way the street is designed, has got a significant amount of crush under it. I mean, the street is designed, specifically designed, it's engineered, you know, to hold the weight. It's designed to do what the street is designed to do. There is enough room at the end of the street for a turnaround. We went up, we measured the turnaround. There is enough, the trash truck could drive up, turn around.
It was designed so they could do that.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And I know there's been hard feelings about bushes and the apple trees. I mean, that's all been cut. There's a significant right-of-way to either side of that, and I think, I don't think those issues are issues anymore that have been brought up and raised several times. As far as the street itself, it's well-maintained. They do vacuum, sweep, do whatever needs to be done. He said that that's been faithfully, pretty much done quite a bit. It's public good, 24/7 is the way Tommy Mulligan basically put it, because there's kids, after school, in the early evening, when sports are going on, kids come to and from, and I don't know, I made the decision last year, and I think it probably wasn't the right decision to make, and I'd like to see this board consider going back to the way it was for the last 100 years, and allow the trash to be picked up, allow the snow plow to be plowed. Don't put the big truck, don't put the big plow, put the small plow truck on, and let this be a learning lesson for us. If you want a motion, I'll make the motion. Yes.
If I could, and I think, going back to last week, I think that language already exists. If we interpret the maintenance agreements that everybody signed in their easements, that maintenance includes plowing, that gets us by that hurdle.
The only thing I'd like to see, and the reason why I bring up the fact that if we could get the crossing at the end of...
We've justifiably got a reason for it.
Well, but the issue that I have a concern about, and I think we should all have a concern about,
Yep.
okay? Because we represent
The entire
Okay.
town.
That's the condition that it's been for a while. I mean, if you look back in the record, I've always supported the public good, okay? I want to make sure that that public good is there. We have an issue right now where there's one property owner that, as has been presented,
Yep.
that we have this different. Now, we don't have a current problem, but, properties change ownership.
I agree.
And if we go back and saying the way it's been for 100 years, where it's been basically an agreement that they cross on another property that's got no connection. When I say connection, it abuts, but there is no tie between the maintenance or taking care of Lamson Avenue and the crossing, because the crossing's on another property that's not here. By putting the crossing connected to here, it takes this one out of the picture. So down the road, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if there's a different owner and that owner doesn't want the crossing on there, that's what I mean, it's not in the picture.
Well, and that's why I asked if Lamson goes all the way to the property line.
The road, it looks like the right-of-way does, but the road itself does not.
Well, as long as the right-of-way is there, we can confirm
But
the right-of-way there. then
The right-of-way doesn't
That's-
belong to the town.
It belongs
The
to...
right-of-way
It belongs
belongs
to the
to
abutting
the owners.
Yeah.
Right.
The only thing we have an easement
Yeah.
for is,
So
structures.
the last
Right.
house owns the road,
but again,
right-of-way
once,
in front of
if,
their...
let's assume the land where the crossing is right now at some point changes owners and they stop the use, the good goes away. There's no more public good there, just as it did when they had when we thought they were taking it away with the no trespassing sign. At that point then, if the owners on Lamson Ave want to continue that public good, they're going to have to come up with a crossing at the end of that.
Well, hopefully we do it now. I'm just saying, why don't we see if we can work this out, resolve the issue, it's a win-win, and then it doesn't have to be dealt with, it's done.
So then you would just need an agreement with the last person on that road to do the path over the right-of-way that they own.
Who is the one most likely to agree, because they're a beneficiary of it? They're at the end of the road.
I think it's for the good of the, I think it's the good of the town, it's good of the people who are walking, the students using it, instead of going running around all the way on the street.
You could light it up at night. for safety. I mean, you can do 100.
Well, I don't know about lighting it up.
Yeah, you get that carried away, but I mean, at least as long as we've got it so I can use it, right?
You never know.
I know, but that's down the road, you know.
Somebody makes the project.
So I would suggest that we look
Do you want me to
at that.
approach the Corrivals? Well, or do you first approach Public Works about the crossing there?
Yeah, I wanna go
Well,
down-
perhaps
I wanna
they
go down and take a look at it.
Take a look at that.
Take a look at the crossing first? Okay.
I was there the other day, and when I walked the path from there to there, I walked down that little, the low spot, the gully.
Oh, I used to walk that path every day.
It was a running brook
I
the
used
other
to walk
day.
that path
Yeah.
every
Yeah,
day.
they had a
They had a board.
pallet over it one
And the
time. and-
crossing's not the worst part. The worst part is when you get up on top and it's paved and it's sloping away. It's really tough to walk on that. But I meant to take a look at the end of Lamson and how that would connect over to the park.
Okay.
And all of that is well and fine, you know, making the improvements, but as it exists today, the town, whether it's the school or the Parks and Rec, rent spaces for cars, and the students go in and out, and there is a public good today. And I just hate to see us, again, get tied up in agreements and paperwork, and where we can work towards that, but I think we can resolve this issue with the, you know, as long as the public good exists, and they're walking through there, our intent, our ultimate goal will be to improve that path, so it's there forever, but I just don't want to see this held up anymore, just for the sake of.
I understand where you're coming from, but my whole point is if we do anything more than examine this at this point, we need to look at and see the possibility to it. I wouldn't want to go, because right now, it's not winter time.
Well, maybe we can make a motion conditioned on, or not conditioned on,
I would rather
but.
not do that. I would rather not do that.
I'd like,
I wanna go look at it personally.
So you want me to reschedule this for next week?
That's my,
The snow's not gonna fall,
Okay.
Yeah.
hopefully, for a while.
so that being the case, I know when I said, let's talk to the lawyer last week, Sue kind of went, every time we talk to the lawyer, it's money, but ka-ching, ka-ching, exactly. I mean, we have a week window here. I mean, if we, for some reason, right now, just want to say, let's forget about everything and let's go back to the way it was, I mean, liabilities, I mean, can we do that? Can we get away with it, and are we allowed to do it?
I have a question along those lines with what you said. In 2004, this issue came up again, and the board at that time voted that there was a public good and that they were going to continue municipal services, provided that Lamson Avenue abutters sign a waiver of municipal liability. So my assumption is, since that motion passed, that they signed a municipal waiver of liability at that time.
So it's already in place.
I'm not sure. I'd like to look at that.
Maybe we can check, that's my question, maybe we can check
That was in our
that.
packet last week, though?
No, that, I've not seen
No,
that
it's a
yet.
different issue.
Those were the easements.
Those are the easements.
Sue, once,
bring this back next week, that would provide an opportunity to check into that.
Yeah.
item and
I
then,
seem to
those
remember there
rest
was a
we'll have to
problem
go.
getting those, but
There
let me
was?
look it up.
or
Yes.
I mean, you can ask the attorney what, I guess, what steps we would need to take to reverse some of the things that have been done to allow trash and plowing and everything else that's been done that way for.
Let me check and see if there's any municipal waivers
Let's
in that
take
liability.
one step at a
Yeah.
time.
That gives you all an opportunity to walk it
Yeah,
to,
I'm gonna
straight
table it
across
till
to
next
see.
week. It'll give us an opportunity to look at it, look into that issue about the liability.
One quick thing on that road, they do maintain it to vac it, because that road has got the porous cement, the porous concrete on it,
Yeah.
not porous asphalt. So, we have an easement not to use it. The town
Yes.
does, correct?
Yes.
So what is the difference between them going and vacuuming the road or going and plowing the road, or is that just?
And defining maintenance.
Right, if we defined maintenance as to plowing,
You know,
I would rather not get in, I'm trying to avoid this.
I understand.
I'm trying to just,
If I could just,
Yes.
and I just want to go, because I was kind of confused, because last year you had a big discussion with the churches and all of the, and I'm looking at the agreement that they were asked to sign, and this is nothing like the agreements that the churches, I mean, there was a 4114 process in here, when I don't remember ever getting easements and having to go through a 4114 process with public hearings.
Ever since the Elmer Pease thing, we have to do that because of that vote at
We're
town
not giving
meeting.
we're not,
Oh, that was us giving an easement since then, okay.
I'm just curious, because, I mean, we didn't do that when we got the easement for the road, for the drainage, or when we get easements for,
Those didn't go through Attorney Drescher.
and that's, I guess where I'm going is, I'm just cautioning, going back to the attorney again, because sometimes you end up with something like this.
That's why I
that-
wanted to take this one step at a time. Let's
Yeah.
discuss two things next week. Stu, look for those, and
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get some.
Hollis and
Yep.
Mark,
Yep.
check that out.
Thank you.
So if we can recap, if we can get an agreement to go either property, but an improved path, is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I mean, if the
And so-
Bovair say,
so-
fine, well, we can define the path, and you
Yeah,
can
so it's
make it
clearly
safe.
defined, and, everybody's of the same understanding, and, we can memorialize it somehow.
Okay.
I think that's the ultimate goal. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, ADA parking at the high school.
Mr. Chairman, may I go to the drawing board?
Sure. This ought to be interesting.
Back to school, huh?
Back to school, yeah.
That's where you went this week, right?
That's right, oh, yeah. Yeah, I spent probably 5 hours in meetings on one day, but again, I met with Carl last week, I met with Megan, I met with the principal, Frank McBride at the high school. We all came out, we had a very lengthy discussion, and I think we came to a happy medium as to how we can solve this issue and try to save the town some money. I'm not the best architect drawer in the world, but here we go. As we come into the school, we go down, all the way down around. There's a set of steps down here, and there's another set of steps over here, and there's the ADA parking lot, the parking area over here. This is all for ADA over here. As we come up the road to the school, kind of goes like this. There's a set of doors here, and there's a setback here like this. Comes like this, all right? We had talked about putting the stairs, moving them, or not moving, but adding and putting a parking lot over here, 4 cars, making your 3 walls here, making a very large retaining wall here, another wall here, another wall here. Well, we had talked about last week taking the parking spaces from here, bringing them across the street next to that building where that little cutout is. The school is all over here. It comes down like this. The doors are over here where you open. There's 30 plus feet of space from here to there, okay, which will allow us to give us ample space to go from there to the road. And there's almost like 50 feet plus of space here that would need to be, we could regulate the parking spots in. And Collis, I was told to ask you about this. LID, low impact development, parking and things like that. There's grants out there. They believe that Megan and Carl could come up with grants to make that a little bit cheaper. We'd have to look and see what grants are available. But they could physically make enough parking spots. They could make the 4 parking spots right here without any problems. And then rather than having to cross the busy thoroughfare to go into the building, you'd be on the same side of the street. You could get out of your cars, come into the building here, the gymnasium, and you could go vote over here. I mean,
So, Mark, you're talking about the little courtyard area, for
The
lack of
little
a better
court-
term?
Where the bricks are?
No, there's no bricks here now.
Okay, this
Right
is
in the-
further up.
Right in the main entrance.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Was this discussed at all with school staff?
Not as of yet, but like I said, Mr. McBride was there, and Mr. McBride said he would rather see it there than there. It hasn't been brought forward yet. I'm here tonight to present it to you guys. And as far as the school staff, Sue, I guess it would be me or Mr. McBride or somebody. We could set up an appointment to go see it. I do know that Megan came up with a price. The first price we had was $41,995.41. The second price we had for putting them from there to there across the street is $21,700. Okay, so we've pretty much knocked off almost $20,000 right away going from here to there. And that's not including if there are any grants available or anything available to, to do some of this stuff with.
And Mark, we'd have to put something at the front of the parking spot so no one would go
Yes, yeah, there's.
into the school.
I'll go on record
wanna
as
drive
saying
through.
the fire chief gave it a D-. He didn't quite like my idea, but, we'll work around that. In the front over here, the space that's left here, we would have to put some sort of a barrier across here. So if the cars were to pull in and there was an incident, the cars wouldn't go into the building, hit the building over there.
And I understand there's enough depth there, because
There
you
is a-
need to
there
be
is-
6
yes.
feet away
Yes.
from the structure itself. The car can't be
Yes.
any
As
closer
far-
than 6
As
feet.
far as what Megan has said, she believes, and, rough measurements, there is enough room that you could conceivably put the parking spots there. You could still have some nice green shrubbery or flowers here, and still have some more shrubbery or flowers there, and you'd still have some room, so.
And then there would be porous pavement, is that what
It'd
we're?
be porous pavement, and again, Megan, I was hoping to have an answer from Megan, but I didn't see it, and I didn't look. So she may have sent it, but I didn't see it. Porous pavement, whether that falls under the ADA, being ADA compliant, she's not 100% sure. She'd have to.
So the reason for doing porous pavement would be to be able to get some grant money? Is that what I'm hearing? Or something?
Yes, it falls under the Low Impact Development, LID.
Yeah.
If we design it the green way or that way, there is a storm drain. The other thing is, right in the middle of the parking lot, you'll see a storm drain that's there. All the drainage is there, everything is there. They just have to get another riser to put in the parking lot, make the parking lot. Everything is there. We walked around back. We went through to the back of the building where the GTV is. Megan's concern is the slope that goes into there. I'm not sure what it is, and Megan wasn't sure what it is at the time. Around back where the GTV studios are now.
Right.
There's a door there. You come in, you'd be in by the library, I guess, or somewhere around there. If you were to go from there to go vote, I guess there's a
Long distance.
long distance. There's a concern as to how far you're going to travel, how far you would go.
I think this is the shortest distance. is
Well,
what
the benefit that I see to this being in front, if you use this, you can get to the office because and it could be used, because that was a problem with the back. But my biggest thing at this point, this has to go and get approved by the school.
Most certainly.
We could talk about this all day long, but it's not our facility to.
But, where it's been brought, we've had several discussions on it. And, we've come up with something now, I think that may be agreeable to all parties. If the board would like me, I'll go to the school board and I'll basically tell them what we came up with.
This is another thing I'd like to take the opportunity to go look at. I can envision it, but I need to look at it.
And I think it should be Sue having the discussion with who she's had the discussion with.
Can you see that?
Yes, I can.
So it would be right
there.
here.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want to go out, stand on the ground and take a look
And
at
I
it.
think there's a depth of 30 feet from the sidewalk to the building.
Yes, yeah.
And a parking spaces,
20.
18 and a half.
18 and a half to 28, can you show?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
right,
would still
it's right
give you
across
some-
from the other ones that are there, the existing ones, so I think the location.
And for the parking spots, for them to be legal, they need to be designed so that they can be shared parking lots, as Megan drew it out. If we were to use these parking spots here, you have to have X amount of feet and from here to here, and then you have to have another striped off area here so that
Right,
if they park there, they can park there, they can share the same,
right.
so, that's.
Question for Chairman. Is pervious pavement required?
No.
No, it's
No.
not, it's just,
I understand we can get grants for it, but that
But
triples or.
It's quite a bit more expensive.
It's
to
quite a
do.
bit more
It's going to
expensive.
be the only piece of
Yeah.
impervious pavement in the whole property.
Yeah, I
mean,
know, it might be cost more money to.
Send a back truck over there.
Yeah.
Right.
That
More maintenance, leave it
Especially when
be.
you got drainage right there.
blocks,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, they have the grass
Yeah.
pavers that.
I think it was just a way of finding source of
An
funding,
alternative source of
funding it.
Cost me, it's tremendous, it just,
Carl wasn't sure.
Okay.
There are grants out there. There's money available, whether we can acquire it.
Well, that's an alternative plan, right? So then should have Sue talk to whoever she's been talking to.
The superintendent of schools is who I've been communicating with.
I mean,
Right.
Mr. McBride was with us, and I mean, he saw what we talked about. He's well aware of it, and I mean, he's afraid if we put the parking spots on the other side, Carl stood there, he's almost 6 feet tall, and it'd be almost a 6 feet drop. If somebody, let's say somebody were to go over, it'd be almost a 6 feet drop down, and you'd have cars below, you'd have a number of concerns as well.
Well, what kind of time frame are we working on here? I mean,
The
there is not
election's
really.
in March,
Yeah,
so
there is.
you'd
There
want to
is
get,
not really.
but you'd want to, well, if you're going to do it, you'd want it done while school's out this summer. You don't want to be
we'll
doing
do
this
before
during
winter
school.
gets here, obviously, in fall again, so.
Yeah, but we're not required to do this.
No, there's no requirement to do it.
Nope.
It's just to increase ADA accessibility during voting and also for after,
What, the point I want
School
to make, there's no
events.
need to rush to judgment here, because,
No, there-
you know, it's not, we're okay as we stand right now. I mean, this would be nice, this would be an addition,
right.
and it would be an improvement. Yes? Do you want to comment?
No, I was just
Okay.
gonna say, yeah, no, you summed it up.
Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, we were supposed to have a 7:30 public comment. Did you want to reopen public comment?
sure.
I didn't put it on your thing, I
Yeah, he's gonna
forgot.
notice wasn't
Yeah,
on the
sorry.
agenda. I made a note on here to make sure it's in the next week's agenda.
Yep, got it.
Yeah, well, we will have our second public comment opportunity. I know you've commented once already. Did you want to make a brief second comment?
Yeah, I must be the only one here, so. My name is Katie Banner again, 12 Joffrey Street. Thank you again for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to use this time just to ask two questions, to have a little bit of feedback from each of you on what I said, because at least I'd like to go home with some kind of feedback, number one. And number two, I believe you just approved some kind of timber cutting for the lot that was in question regarding Moose Park, because I heard lot 18, map 18 lot 62-1, and that's the lot that we were concerned about. Could you just explain briefly how this timber cutting goes? Is it supposed to be approved way before the project starts?
This is just a report of the timber cut. It's not the filing of an application or the intent to cut. It's the report that they just have to formally accept.
Okay.
So they've just accepted the report of the timber cut.
Okay, so this was approved a long time
Yes.
ago again,
Yeah.
but they have to report on it after
they
they're
have to pay
done?
taxes on it.
Because I don't know all the procedures.
Yeah, they pay
and-
taxes
They
on
have
the
to pay
timber
the
cut.
tax on it.
Oh, okay.
So that's
Okay.
So
why they
once
have
they
to
cut it
accept
and they've got all the slips, then
Can
we
I-
can assess
can
the
I-
tax.
Say one thing to that. Too, as far as timber cuts, when timber cuts come in here, it says on the form, request for timber cut. If we don't act on it, it's automatic. I mean, it's us approving when it says request and it comes to the board for signature, it's just a formality. We can't deny the request. If we don't sign it, they have 30 days. If we don't respond in 30 days, they can go cut. That's a state law.
And it's just for tax purposes, basically,
They
they're
report.
reporting it,
That's right.
and it's a good thing for us. Done, and we're getting money out of it, so that's a good thing. All right, well, thank you for taking time to explain that. And could I come back and ask, though, for some comments on what I said before I go home this evening, just so I can go home knowing that maybe I brought up facts or things that should be taken care of, and I don't know, what are your comments?
Well, we typically don't respond to public comment because it's the first we've heard it. We haven't had a time to think about it, talk about it amongst ourselves, any of the issues that were brought up. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of the issues you brought up were planning issues that are dealt with by the planning board. Those are elected positions that are elected by the citizens at town meeting. just as the members of this board are elected. So they're elected to do a job. We can't influence their job. They have zoning ordinances they need to comply with. They have development regulations they have to comply with, and that is all through the planning board process. They have their public hearing process. They have their information gathering process, similar to what we do, only specific to development and planning within the town.
But don't selectmen double sometimes on the planning board? Because I believe you were one of the ones that voted for this program, was it?
We
Was
had,
it not? Because I'm seeing over here, let's see. Well, Mr. Devanza also is a selectman and is also on the planning board.
yes,
And you were against this. And I believe if I look in my notes, same situation with you, Mr. Adams, right?
when I was on the planning board.
Okay. So you had knowledge of all this because you were in the planning board at
That's
the
right.
time.
That's right.
Right. So that's why, if you could share with me some feedback on what I talked about.
Well, I'll try to do it just generally speaking, okay? Again, because again, this isn't really our opportunity to respond to you. This is the first time we're hearing of your concerns. But I can tell you that when it went through the planning board process, there are rules and regulations that they need to adhere to. Zoning ordinances, development regulations. If the project comes in and it complies with all of those, the planning board has to approve it. They don't have any choice. That's why
But it was a
we have.
special condition, though. It was a special condition, okay? And in order to meet that special condition, you had to meet the criteria of the project fit with the housing, okay? Does the project fit, with the scale? And how could you have said a big 24 apartment building fits with a residential home? See, I'm not getting that at all. And how could you say that there was no wear and tear on the roads? And how can a project like this, a big magnitude of a project like this, go through without notifying the whole street or the town? Because there's a tax burden on us, okay? I know it's done, and maybe it's too late now, but however, though, I am questioning it, and I did email Mr. LeMay and asking if we could stop this right now because we don't think it fit the program that it should have been under, because
Stop what, ma'am?
Stop the building right now. Is it possible to stop the building right now?
It is
So
not
you can
possible.
let the residents get their feedback, and can you take comments from the residents? Let them decide, because
an
they
opportunity.
never, from what I understand though, there was meetings that were canceled, not all the abutters were notified. That's what I was understood. I mean, I understood when I spoke to some of the people on Moose Club the other day. Kind of the same incidents as this Plan Bernardville. There's a meeting that's supposed to occur. You have people coming to the meeting, and then all of a sudden it's canceled, and then you miss the next one, and then all of a sudden it went through.
Canceled meetings may create an inconvenience, but that's all they do. I mean, there's no loss of opportunity to comment. I mean, it's an
And that was not a
inconvenience.
public hearing.
Yeah, right.
The one that was scheduled. It was just one of their regular committee meetings.
But, I mean, there are requirements to notify abutters and provide public notice, and we follow those rules. We notify abutters, we put public notices in the newspaper, we post them on our website. We try to do as much as we can to reach out to the general population.
But you just said there was no public notices, right, regarding that? Isn't that
Regarding
what you
what?
just said? There was no public notices?
No, I said,
Planapalooza.
the meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow night
Right.
was not a public hearing.
Oh,
It was just a public meeting. There's a difference between the two? For example,
This is a public meeting.
This is just a public meeting. We have public comment sessions in our public meeting. Not all committees have public comment. So sometimes they just meet and they discuss what they heard. For example, the meeting that was scheduled for tomorrow night that's rescheduled for June 18th, they will be discussing what they heard at all those public open forums that they had at Goffstown Harvest Christian Church. They'll be discussing all that and taking all that information they heard from the public and putting together a plan. Once they've formulated a plan, I believe they have another public hearing scheduled at the end to get public input.
And just to add to what Sue is talking about, there was a schedule all laid out for the Planapalooza. I mean, the actual final date ends up in March of 2014.
Wow.
It's all, if you go online, it's all laid out. It tells you when all the meetings are. It tells you pretty much the schedule, all, meeting by meeting by meeting. And, I mean, it's not something that just we think about and we're going to have a meeting. I mean, we had pre-meetings to the meetings, and once the meetings were out, I mean, we have to develop a plan, we have to develop a scope, we have to develop goals, end results, and by March of, was it 2014, when we go in front of everybody, I mean, we'll have an idea as to what should happen, might happen, probably will happen. And just not to cut you off, but you asked for everybody's opinion. I mean, on the Moose Club Park, I mean, it takes several months. It just doesn't happen overnight. It takes several months for all of these meetings to come about, all these permits. As Selectman Collis, Adam said, I mean, the planning board, there's a process that we follow. And if we don't follow this process, I mean, we all get in trouble, believe me. We are bound by all the RSA's, rules and regulations that we need to follow these. And, I mean, planning for this may have started a year or two ago. It's just not coming about now. So, I mean, I'm not going to blame fault on you, or I'm not going to blame fault on anybody here, but, I mean, you said it tonight. I heard you say it tonight. You're now just becoming involved. How many times do we hear that? People, it takes something in their neighborhood to happen, and then they now become involved. Well, I mean, that's kind of after the fact, but I can pretty much guarantee you're going to keep an eye on things from here on out, right?
I'm going to try to.
However, though,
And I was just going to go along with what you were saying. Under our regs, when a developer comes in with a site plan, they are required to pay for the certified mail that goes out to all of the abutters. It would be cost prohibitive to decide, is it the one street, the next street, all the streets? So that's what the laws require, is all of the abutters are notified. And should there be a scheduled meeting, let's say for tonight, and that meeting is canceled, at the meeting, they formally will say that the meeting with this developer is not going to take place. He requested an extension or a continuance, and they set the date for the next meeting right there. Unfortunately, they don't re-notify everyone.
That's a big problem, and it doesn't cost that much to notify.
Well,
not
when you multiply it by all the developments, the town can't bear that. But unfortunately, and it's happened in the past, when there have been developments that residents are interested in, they come to every meeting, and they're here, and they see when the meeting is canceled. They know when the next meeting is. We wish we had more residents like you that take the interest now and follow, but that's what it takes, unfortunately. People watching the meetings and seeing when things are continued.
I think the notification has to change, though. There's got to be, here I go again with the police department, but if they're advertising dump stickers, okay, needed, I mean, what's more important? A big development like that it could cost us millions of dollars, to educate these children, or a dump sticker, all right? If they can take the information and put it on their sign, important information regarding big apartment buildings, okay, things that will affect the whole town, all right? It has to go up on big signs so people know. If you're educated to come, okay, by looking at the sign saying, hey, I got to come to the meeting, it involves me. And if you can make the meetings maybe at 7 o'clock, I think that would be very helpful. And email the people, all right? It's got to be done, because in the long run, you're putting this liability of millions of dollars, on us. That's not right. And again,
the planning board meetings do start at 7, just so you know.
It's also important to remember that property owners have rights. So the person who owns that piece of property has a right to develop it in a way they see fit, as long as it complies with the zoning ordinances and development regs. They have that right.
But this one did not, though.
Yes.
It did not. It was by special exception.
That's right.
Okay? Because the law is, I can't remember the section, okay, but that section said that we're not supposed to build more than a 12 apartment building. Okay, that's what it says, unless it's by special condition.
Right.
And that special condition has to meet, okay, certain criteria, which it was not. It did not meet those criteria.
I believed it did.
Well, it couldn't have, okay? Any child could have said that, okay? Any child can see a big apartment building does not match a residential house. It does not match, all right? And it does create hardship when you're bringing in perhaps 100 kids, all right? Your normal family, okay, probably consists of 2 children, and they were counted at 0.22. The math doesn't add up, okay? Wait till they come in.
okay? And then who's gonna have to pay for these 100 children to be educated? It's us. I can't afford to be taxed out of my house anymore. I can't, and that's my feelings on it, okay? And you voted for this. Shame on you. And thank you, Mr. Devanza, for not voting on it. I appreciate that. That's all I have to say. But I would like feedback, though. I want to go home. What's going to be done to correct these problems? What am I going to tell my husband? What am I going to tell my neighbors?
What problems, ma'am? There's a process in place. They followed the process.
But again, if a meeting's canceled, all right, the owner is not re-notified. Okay, so they might be looking for notification in the mail. They're never re-notified. That's not right.
But that is
That's like a
explained.
loophole, but
That
it's
is
a loophole,
explained
though.
at the first. And
I mean, it's not your fault that the rules are that way, but that's a loophole. And someone has to change these loopholes.
But there is a process to change zoning ordinances, and that is either through the planning board, you can go to the planning board and request zoning ordinance changes, or through a petition article, you can do a petition zoning ordinance change. And that would have to be approved by the voters. But that's how those things change. Those are regulations that we have to follow because they were put in place by the voters.
Can I ask you to put this on the petition? Can I ask you to put this maybe on the ticket so it can be changed? These are important things I think people will vote for.
You need to talk to the planning board.
Right, we can't put anything on the planning board.
They oversee the zoning ordinance.
Oh, okay, so, and could I ask Mr. Devanza to bring that up then? Seeing that I'm here this evening and you're part of the planning board still?
Well,
He's a selectman's rep on the planning board. He represents the Board of Selectmen on the planning board.
I mean, it's possible that I could bring it up when we discuss zoning changes.
Okay. And what is it I have to do? Do I have to put it on paper or something, or?
Well, I guess he would need to know specifically what you're proposing for a change in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, just write up something, perhaps? Because I kind of wrote it up in my paper, too, but
You'd have to cite the section of the zoning ordinance that you want to change and how you want to change it.
So
And then they
I would
would
have to look
discuss
it
it.
up under notification, perhaps. Notification. Okay, all right.
If it's there. Some notifications are by state law.
Right.
And we can't change that unless you change the state law.
So how do I
State
know what
reps.
can be changed and what cannot be changed?
Talk to Brian Rose. He can
Okay.
tell you whether the notification process is in the ordinance or in state law.
Okay,
Okay?
all right, I appreciate that. And what if you have a big outcome next week? Where are you going to put everybody in this room? Because Brian Rose, I think, notified like 200 people, I think we counted, right? We were counted together.
You counted it and told me that number.
Yeah. So, I mean, if 200 people, maybe they won't show up, there's not too many people tonight, but what if 200 people that were notified show up? What are you going to do?
We'll deal with that when it comes. That would be
Okay, but is the meeting going to be canceled
It would
again?
be very, very unusual for that many people to show up.
And the reason Brian wanted it here was so it could be televised, so more
Right.
people can watch it at
Watch it
home.
from home.
Because like I said, this isn't a public hearing, this is a committee meeting to
But
do their
originally it was
work.
supposed to be at St. A's, though, and I think that hall
Right.
was really big. So that's my concern.
Yeah, it's just
Because
we
you hate
don't
to have
have-
everybody come and then it's canceled again.
And we don't have camera capability, unfortunately, at St. A's, so we can't televise it.
Yeah, and actually the room we were in at St. A's was pretty small.
Was it?
Yeah, that wasn't very big.
Oh, but I think this one was going to be in the Cushing Center.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But didn't they televise the planned Pinardville? Well, it's not live though, right? They film it,
Right, they film it.
but it gets on TV, whether it's like that night or a couple nights. You just want to make sure that you have available space for everybody. So that's a concern. But I wanted to know by tomorrow if possible. So if I'm going to be at St. A's telling people that there's no meeting, at least to tell
Well,
them.
Brian's going to put a sign on the door there, so if anyone shows up, they know it's been rescheduled to June 18th here.
Okay, so a reschedule, where it's going to be is going to be up on the door at least, right?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda. Four? Yeah, we wrapped up with the ADA, we're now on 4. Discussion of options to the I-293 exit 6 and 7 before tomorrow night's meeting?
I have something to add to that.
Yes, sure.
The missing page that you didn't have in your packet, page 91, that has the end, and I just wanted to bring up, I mean, I knew that there was this plan, and I couldn't find my copy, and I had asked Sue about bringing this up, putting it on, because we have, the meeting is the following night. I wanted the board to see what was in there for the plan, and my point of this is that hindsight is 20/20. And when you looked at the plan and you looked at what was on here, that continuation from 114, the bypass, where it comes in with 114 at the lights, if it was to continue the way it was planned, and would go up past the back road, it would actually complete the loop, the 293 loop around Manchester, that type of a loop. It would connect the back road. They brought up, when they presented to us, they were looking at it from the exit up there, in Hooksett, Manchester, and coming down past the landfill, and they talked about the cost of going over the wetland area down. This does cross the river. This is outside. What they're dealing with up there is turnpike funding. This is outside of the turnpike area, so this would have to have an alternative. But this does another thing. There are several things, and I'm trying not to ramble, but sometimes I do on here. When I say ramble, I'm going from one thing to the other. As was mentioned when we were talking to the fire chief, one of the difficulties we have in town is we have a river, we have 2 crossings. This would add a 3rd crossing. This is a benefit towards public safety because we have an additional crossing. Right now, when we go down to Riverview Park, we have to go across, Pinard Street and Kelly Street to access them, and for police cruisers to cruise over there. This would help that area somewhat, be another alternative, and would relieve traffic and continue the loop, and this is also would be a benefit to Bedford. And my thought process on this, if we had this discussion and if the board thought that this is something that should be added to that plan, we have the ability to add it, bring it up tomorrow to add it to the plan. Again, this is not something that's going to be built next year, but it has to get on the plan to be considered. And
How different Goffstown would have looked if this had been implemented in 1967.
I know. That's why I say hindsight is 20/20, and that's one of the issues to bring up.
I'll take this tomorrow night if the board,
I'm willing to go too.
yeah,
And I gave you the original, those are our only copies, though,
Yeah.
so we'll need those back.
Yeah, it's the 1967 Comprehensive Plan of Goffstown by James Sewell, out of Maine.
I'll let you hold on to that.
This is the town's copy. I had a copy that was given to me by somebody that was back then, and I think I remember lending to somebody, and I had them promise to give it back to me, and unfortunately.
Well, we can bring it for the discussion tomorrow night, for sure. Bring it up as an alternative for discussion.
Yeah, it's
But
interesting to see that 46 years ago.
I would like the board to have a discussion and at least have a formal vote, and whoever's there, it would be representative of the board.
Probably be just you and I. I don't know if Tony Martz will be there.
Tony can't be there. I just got an email from him.
Yeah, I may go
Okay.
tomorrow night.
I think it's interesting to point out to the people today doing the studies that there was one in 46 years ago.
Right.
This was the plan.
If I could ask, so what are you asking us to say, in addition to taking that road from the highway, crossing the wetland issue that they're having now onto Goffstown Back Road, but then to continue it and have a crossing over the Piscataquag River?
To the
Through
lights, Dana's Park, to the lights, that was in that plan.
But aren't there developed parcels in between?
There is now probably, but back then there probably
Well,
wasn't.
they might have to shift. This is a plan, and if they can look at that plan, there may be a way that they can do it.
I'm just trying to, in my mind, think, if they don't have the money to come across Blackbrook to get to the Goffstown Back Road, why wouldn't they just come to the Goffstown Back Road and stop?
But
Which
at
is
least
what
it
we
shows
want.
that too, right. At least it shows how many years this has been.
There should be a connection.
works.
right?
Yeah, that there should be some kind of
Importance.
connection.
I'm trying to show the importance that this was a plan back then. This was part of the plan. It completes the loop around Manchester, which is important.
And it was, when I asked the question, what interest does Hooksett have, he said basically nothing, because they dropped out of the picture. And we have continually pursued this avenue of having the exit brought here. I mean, if we stay strong on this, I mean, show support, I think they'll hopefully get the point and make it.
At least get it as, how they have the alternatives different, have this as one of those alternatives for them to take a look at.
So you were just looking for a vote of the board to present this to the people tomorrow morning?
During the public hearing, to bring it up that the Board of Selectmen is requesting that they look, that they
At
add
this plan.
as an alternative, one of the additions, things to
Yeah,
look
and
at.
knowing that it would be amended to meet today's.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
You're looking and talking about that section, you're not looking at the proposed relocation, you're looking at the proposed extension of Route 114, you're not looking.
correct. So when you're going down when you go down the bypass,
You're gonna go straight
114,
across,
when you get those lights at Dana's Park, that you can go across the river
and you'd end up,
and you could get up there.
And put a bridge across the river.
And then we'd have an additional crossing, instead of 2 crossings in Goffstown, so there was the public safety issue.
All right, I don't know that we need a motion, we'll just direct folks.
Well, it gives more credence if it's that the board is supported by a vote of the board. Just like going in front of the legislature and making a presentation to the legislature.
I don't have a problem with voting to provide this to the officials there to show how they need to come out to Goffstown Back Road, because that is part of what we had looked at. But I'm not prepared tonight to say that I would support a bridge going across the river without looking at all the ramifications and
costs,
and the
because we know that
takings and all
the
the
costs
things
are an
that-
issue just
Oh,
to
yeah.
come to the back road.
Like a Easter egg.
But even if they gave it to us,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of other issues besides. I mean, there
Oh,
are
yeah.
people that live along those.
Well, I understand those concerns, but by doing that, we're not saying that we're gonna dislocate people. Oh, this is a plan that they would have to see what the feasibility is.
and I
Right,
think,
we want to encourage them to continue to look at the alternative that was even
Exactly.
considered
Back
40
in-
years,
Yeah,
50 years ago.
and by bringing this forward, I think just adds more ammunition. Just shows that
Right.
we're truly interested in this, and we'd like to have a positive result. out
And there's a
of it.
narrative in here which talks about Goffstown, which didn't know, and how it impacts the town.
Right.
It talks about how it impacts Pinardville, how 114 impacts it, and I'm not looking to relocate 114. Believe me, I'm not looking at that. But when you look back, hindsight being 2020, you look at that 46, almost 50 years ago, what they said back then, and you look at what happened, this plan was right on.
And we're still looking at it today. Part of it.
Well, I think those of us that are there tomorrow night can impress upon them their serious desire to look at this alternative.
So are we gonna have 3 or more selectmen there tomorrow night?
They sent the posting sheets with that. They said they recommended that these meetings be posted, just in case
Yep.
you had 3.
So covered.
All right.
Okay,
What are we doing?
3 of us going, right? You're going, I'm going, you're going.
I'm definitely, I'm going.
We're going to bring this with us,
Okay.
and we're going to
And you're welcome to bring the full plan with you.
Yeah.
Just don't give it to them.
No.
That'd be a great idea to have the actual document to show.
Do you want us to make them, make
I was-
copies for them though?
I was just gonna say, would it be possible to get copies, I mean,
Yeah, sure. How many copies do you want?
I don't know how many are there.
to make 20, 25 copies at least?
25 copies?
And
Okay.
That way there, we can get them to the majority of the
But
people.
if we have that actual document, I mean, that.
Oh, yeah,
Authenticity.
yeah, bring this in.
Authenticity.
That's the proof in the pudding right there.
I mean, and if the chairman's gonna be there, the chairman should be the one speaking.
Okay. Do you want a carpool? No, it's not that far away. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure where I'm gonna come from. What time does it start? At 7?
You're gonna come from work?
Not at 7, I'm not.
Oh, I don't know what time you get out. I don't know if you have late nights at the office. I
Well,
don't know.
occasionally, but I start at 7 in the morning, so I try and get out before. Okay, great. Let's see.
Selectmen's goals.
Okay, number 5, Selectmen goals. Selectman Campusano's notes from the all boards meeting are enclosed.
8B5.
8B5.
I didn't receive any other notes, so that's what I put in. I hear you. Still growing.
So, where do we want to go with this?
Well, we had the list of ones that Sue had put together for us that were compiled that we had gone through.
Yeah, it does have short range and long range goals at the end.
Was the short-range goal, I wasn't at the all-boards meeting, and I haven't had a chance to watch that meeting, but was it to maintain level-funded budgets or maintain level tax rates?
I think it was level funded.
I don't, and that, those things at the end are mine,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
based on, those are my interpretations based on,
There, from the input from there,
correct,
and can I just say,
and just my thoughts.
okay, but can I just say one thing about that? Most people don't look at it sometimes the way we do when you're talking about level funded tax rate. A level tax rate, they look at budgets because they don't interpret the budget being different. I mean, they look at it at the budget.
I know what you're saying.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, they were talking about level funded budgets, but I think the message they were trying to deliver was keep the tax burden down. You know, so avoid tax increases.
Right.
As much as possible.
C sounds interesting. Explore non-ordinance related Pinardville improvements to promote that area.
Which one was that, Sue?
Under goals, short range.
Oh.
There was some talk at the meetings, taking Mass Road, narrowing it in, doing streetscape trees, making it more of a boulevard-type appearance. They also talked about the Rochambeau College Road intersection,
Making a park.
squaring it off, trying to acquire property from
Got it.
the shopping center and creating a town square, town common. So those are improvements that wouldn't require zoning changes.
So how do we, or what's the board's thoughts on incorporating these and trying to consolidate and give some focus to some of these goals and take this to the next step? I mean, we talked about doing sort of a mission statement to getting us started towards long-term economic growth, so that all the other good things would spin off of that. I mean, I'd be willing to take a stab at drafting some sort of a mission statement, if that's what folks think is the proper first step. And bring it back for discussion? No? Yes?
I think we need a document that comes out of that,
I do.
that planning meeting.
I agree.
And
Oh,
missions.
so was this the attempt at that document or attempt for selectmen goals? I guess I misinterpreted it. I thought you were tying the all boards meeting with selectmen goals, no?
Yes and no.
Okay. So this was your attempt at taking a stab at the, summarizing the action items that need to come out of the all boards meeting?
Right, in the form of goals that we coordinate with all of the other entities that we should be coordinating with, and that's what we set our goals for as far as this board. And then next year, when we meet again, we measure our progress as an all-board group. Change, improve, whatever we need to do, and then come out with the next revised set of goals. But we're doing it in a coordinated fashion with all of the
And we had talked about
other
one of
entities.
our most important, if not the most important goal, was to try and do whatever we can to promote economic development and change that would stimulate economic development, understanding that it's a very long-range process. But it's got to start with the first step, which is a mission statement. What are we trying to do? What does it mean to say, position Goffstown so it's in a stronger economic position than it is right now?
And maybe that EdSat will help us to define where we are.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of talk at that meeting the other night about that, about changing some of the zoning, and trying to get some land that was more readily developed.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of base tax here that's not, it's all bedroom, it's no. A lot of that meeting was taken up with that, and that's where the money was being spent tonight. They want to try and get something going, try and do a little research, see where they can go with this.
I mean, I think we all kind of know where those areas are that we need to focus on. I mean, it's that whole 114 stretch, the junkyard, and all down along the old rail bed there as it heads down to Bedford. And
I guess that's where that coordination comes into play, because we currently, and even planning, we currently depend on developers coming in that require services to bring the pipe a little closer or a little further. But if our true goal town-wide is to develop that area, maybe at some point we need to sit down and plan, okay, let's town take the first step and run sewer and water there.
And I think that's the way we have to do it. Build it and they will come. I mean, it's been proven in other communities throughout the country. When you want to stimulate economic development, you bring the infrastructure in and they come.
They've got sewer and water now down 114 as far as the old animal rescue league. You've got heavy-duty water and sewer that far.
Yeah.
They don't have any gas, but the gas has come to the county home now.
Gas is,
The county home now, so it's not that far down the road to get it there. There was some talk, they were talking the other night about, Tim Redmond was actually going to talk to these people, and try to get them to, see if they would come this way with it, try to work it in that area. That's a big plus to get the gas down there. Get some of these guys come look at it. You've got property that's got all the big key factors you need, you know. A lot of talk. It'll eventually hopefully happen.
So recognizing that as one of our important goals, how do we want to step out into that world?
I think, like you said a couple minutes ago, Collis, is in our statement, or whatever we draft up or draw up, that we basically, one of our major goals in this coming year is to keep everybody taxes down and not try to add any more to tax burden, but yet work hand in hand with the Economic Development Committee so that we can try to turn that around and bring the growth of what needs to be, what we've been trying to do for a long time into the town and add, add that to the, to one of our priorities. I mean, a lot of the things I look at, I mean, the 293 stuff we've talked about, I mean, it's on our list. I mean, we're actively talking. I mean, if we took Nick's list here, I mean, which is a very well comprised list, I mean, we talked about fire department stuff tonight, we talked about police stuff. I mean, this is a list we could start chewing away, and by the time we're done, hopefully, everything will be done on that, and by doing that, we can work with our short range and long range goals and try to shorten that list out as well, to combine it all together. I mean, Nick is hit, I mean, everything, I remember the meeting that night, I mean, infrastructure, I can't remember. I mean, infrastructure was talked about how many times that night, I mean, it was just, these are good goals.
Yeah, it's just been my experience being involved with these huge types of issues, and this is huge.
Yep.
Is to start with a mission statement. It's pretty broad.
Yep.
I mean, it's really kind of out there. It's like this, and then from there you can start to pick out goals.
Hone it, and refine it.
That focuses you in on the mission statement and spins off of the mission statement.
I mean, I think, speak for myself, but I mean, the infrastructure is very important. I mean, without the infrastructure, I mean, the growth of the town, I mean, how far will it go? Those are all things that we probably should try to put in that mission statement.
Well, if that's what the board likes, I'd take a crack at drafting.
Sure,
a
that's
mission
fine with me.
Mission statement. Bring
A
it
lot of
to
it might be, you have to get all these other boards to kind of get together and
Yeah.
focus in one area, they all need to come together as a group, the fire, the police, everybody has kind of decided we all need to get to an area where we can keep everybody level. And I don't, even by bringing more development in the town as far as commercial, and you're going to just level the taxes off. You're never going to make them go down, let's face it. But if we can just stay here somewhere.
If I could, I think the important thing we have to have in our document, you have to have your mission statement, you have to have your goals, but I think you need to have, and whether it's 1, 2, 3, concrete steps that you plan on doing this year. Because we could say we want to develop the economic growth every year and just never do anything.
Right.
We need something that we're going to measure next
Right.
year. Did we do it or did we not do it?
So, I mean, we could add, how many contracts do we have this year? I mean, is that things that we could put in there, Nick? I mean, we're looking to complete and ratify all the contracts. I mean, is that something for that? Are you looking for things like that or other things?
Yeah, I mean,
We have
you
that
can-
under HR right now,
Okay,
on the
yeah.
original draft that Selectman Devanza was talking about. And so I just added another component, because what I'm hearing is economic development's big, and you just approved the EDSAT as one tool. And we can do other steps in here under economic development. Do you want to meet with the council more frequently? I don't know what other steps you want to take under economic development.
Well, one of the things that I think we need is we need to set up a meeting
Meeting with
EDC.
EDC. But you talk about infrastructure, and some of those are not within our control, so that means who would be meeting with sewer commission, water commissioners? Who's going to do that? Do you give that to EDC to do? Or maybe
See,
that's a
that could be a
discussion you can have.
concrete step where we establish
Bring them in as one meeting here.
We establish a subcommittee of, a representative from the sewer commission, the water precincts, the board of selectmen, to meet regularly and establish a meeting time to start coordinating. I think Hillsborough County, we really need to have a regular meeting with Hillsborough County representatives to start coordinating.
At least have one with them, we never have, right?
No, you're right,
Plans.
because until we get a mission statement, until we get some goals, until we keep hammering and meeting and meeting and meeting and meeting, I mean, it's all just talk. And I think, the suggestion of getting together a group of representatives from these various councils and commissions and the county.
And you mentioned Southern Hampshire planning.
Yep.
Oh, that was more for regionalization,
Well,
sharing,
that
so that's
should be
more
in
budget related.
They should be in
A lot of
office.
these things will fit in the categories you have, it's
Right.
just
Right.
putting them in there.
Right.
If you could get together the Hillsborough Westboro County, get them in here and get the EDC together, maybe just get 4 or 5 of these groups together, the sewer commission, and say, look, this is what we'd like to do, what do you guys think? And try and set a goal to get to it, because those people all need to get together to kind of bring it as a...
So that could be one of the concrete steps
Yeah.
that we identify to reach our goal, is the establishment of a, committee made up of these representatives that will meet on a regular basis to discuss, future development of infrastructure or
And researching how other communities' experiences with what happens when they build the infrastructure. Some real numbers to show people.
And then next year, when we meet, we can say this, we did establish the committee, and they met so many times, and this is what they'll be at the table with us.
And here's where the existing utilities run to. And if we wanted to bring them to here, here's a ballpark engineering cost that we'd have to bond, kind of thing.
Well, you may not have to, because if you could tell the gas company, look, if you bring this high-pressure gas line down here, we can get this to work for you people.
Well, yeah.
And that may not be, they may not have to be part of our money, we may not have to spend the time, they may
Oh, I
bring it for
agree,
free.
yeah.
If they know that you're gonna have something there to work with, then,
Yep. But that's part of what I think this committee would do.
yeah, hang the carrot out in front of them, kind of swing around here and come to us.
So, the mission statement
Okay.
first, and then
Yep.
we'll work
Okay.
from there.
And we should work with EDC regarding land donation.
Sure. That fits into this.
Okay. Do we want to pursue goals any further, or is that enough to chew on?
We gotta do a mission statement, right?
Yeah.
Take it from there.
Yeah, okay. All right, then that brings us down to committee reports. CMAC, I'll report on that first. The CMAC committee did meet last week, added 2 additional members, so that everybody who wanted to be involved could be involved. It was basically an opportunity for the engineering consultants to talk about the 2 intersections and the suite of options available to us. It was really what, Nick Chyman, you were there. It really was more of an opportunity for us to listen to them and to let them make their pitch. So the committee really didn't get into any discussions about specifics, what would work better at Pleasant Street, what might work better at High Street and Elm. Again, it was more of them making a pitch to us and hammering on roundabouts for most of the meeting, which is fine. Because they're big proponents of roundabouts. So, other than that, that was it really. It was just, like I say, their opportunity to present some of their background, some of their philosophy. They did show some alternative designs, but we didn't discuss any of them in detail. We didn't take any action on any of them. They were going to reschedule. I haven't heard when it's been this next meeting's been scheduled to. We talked about it, but I haven't seen anything from
I haven't seen anything either.
Carl and Megan.
That, I think, is a public workshop
Yes.
to work on alternatives.
Yes. So that's what that meeting was all about. It was fairly lengthy, probably in a couple hours, I think. Am I correct? How about EDC?
I had EDC, and we had, the meeting went not very long, and Tony Mines had brought in a draft for the committee to go over for some changes and regulations. Trying to get some people to come into town. Had talked about the tax percentage rates and a few other things, and they're going to all just get together and try and change look at that draft and bring it back to Tony before the next meeting, which is going to be, I'm not sure what the date was. I think before 6/15. I think July 2nd, I believe, that night.
Yes,
July 2nd,
they
right?
moved the meeting from the Wednesday to the Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And that's on the calendar.
Right.
Is
And-
that development regs, draft of changes in development
Yes,
regs?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he drafted some up for him and brought it in, so they're going to look at a lot of that and go from there. And that's about as far as that all went. There was some talk about the back road property, and maybe even go as far as rezone it. And I said, you guys have had this here for a long time, not used it. Why don't you rezone it and put it into something that's usable? Something that doesn't require heavy truck traffic.
Oh,
late at
the
night,
pond view.
First in the morning or something like that. Try and throw a restaurant in there, a bank, gas station, something that's, it's feasible to be usable. so there was some ideas about that to change a little bit. We'll see what happens with it. And then the CIP, I had that also. The library came in, they're looking for money to repair the outside of the building. They got the heating system is gonna need to be looked at or changed. Some talk about their new building and how far that'll go with the taxpayers. And then, of course, we had the school. And I think he's gonna go back and look at, he had 25 projects on the board and 25 wants and needs. They're gonna go back and probably shift those around and see when he can come back. I said, take about half that and put it away and try and come back with something you think will pass, because most of them will just go out the window if they don't. It's a tough sell. You know, it's a lot of money they're looking for, and I know they need a lot of it, but how much can the taxpayer give up? How much will they give up? I guess is what it's gonna boil down to. And that was about it, as far as I've got for committees on those two.
Thank you. Is there any others? Yes.
Just want to report on Muster Rock.
Muster Rock.
Muster Rock.
How's Muster Rock doing?
Picked up and delivered over to the Dards place, and the official weight is just over 10 tons.
Wow.
Muster Rock.
Muster Rock, okay, so,
Made it in one piece.
made it in one piece, Public Works picked it up and brought it over there. Weighed it up, I was down there, going over some things with him, and, I got some photographs of it in his place. It's big, and it's, technically, it's a, glacial erratic, and, type of rock that it is. It has one spot that's got a little bit of a flat underneath. And we looked at it underneath, and there appears that there might be, it was the part that was down, that from what it looked like underneath, it looked like it might have had marks on it from the glaciers underneath on it, which was pretty
Like
on the
scoring
flat.
on it?
Well, yeah, so gonna do some preliminary cutting, because we were scoping it up to see how it was, and they'll have that one flat spot on there, and we won't really know how those are until it's flipped over, but it's kind of, you know, it's a 10-ton rock is not something you just...
Not gonna roll easy.
Let's look at the other side.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? On the flat side, so, you know, it'll be interesting, and it's the largest rock that he's ever had. I think he said the largest rock he had was about just over 4 tons, and this one is a little over 10 tons.
How much does he have to cut away to get it inside to do?
No, he can do it laying down, because he cuts this way, so he put it in and cuts this way on it, because it'll be flipped up. And ironically, the end that he marked, that was on first look, was gonna be the bottom. It turns that the other side is bigger, so that part's gonna be the top. So you don't know until you get them out, and you know, you get them propped up on.
You're a rock expert, aren't you?
Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Be called a rock man, maybe. I don't know, clock man, rock man, whatever. You know, but anyway. But no, it's interesting, and we probably, preliminary, probably gonna be, you know, still shooting for the, to get everything in around the 22nd of June, but we're not gonna be able to. I don't see it feasible of having the dedication then, because we wouldn't be able to get enough out. So maybe sometime in July we'll have to work on picking another date. We'll have to get out invitations and you know, that kind of stuff, and prepare. But the main thing is getting the rock cut, because you don't know what happens while you cut the rock. It might wind up in 3 pieces. Hopefully not, but.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah. Earlier in the evening, we were doing announcements. I forgot to turn the page. I spoke with Carl last week. You know, the water pipe's gonna start to be done here. Carl has tentatively looked for a week around June 16th in that starting period. I just want to let the people know that before the project starts, there are 3 feed pipes or water pipes that come into the circle that need to be worked on. They're basically going to cut the pipes, shut the water, cut the pipes, add valves so that they can go across the street. So if the residents of town wake up after midnight or during the night and they turn their faucets on, don't get alarmed, it's the waterworks and the water department working on the pipes. That tentatively scheduled, depending on the weather and how things go, like I said, could happen around the week of the 16th. I meant to mention that earlier, I apologize for not mentioning it, but they're getting ready to start that schedule. And Carl's got his days all lined up for that, ready to go, so.
And that traffic alert did talk about June 18th.
Yeah, it's right around there, 16th, 18th. So at night, you may or may not see the water. And I know the fire chief has a concern with the hydrants being out of service in town. We're gonna try to set up additional responses if need be with mutual aid tankers so that we do have adequate water, and we'll use the river to the capacity if we need to get water.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other business come before the board? Motion to adjourn. Motion, second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Now, you-